विश्वविदितमेदिनि विश्वविनोदिनि नन्दिनुते गिरिवरविन्द्यशिरोदिनि वासिनि विष्णुविलासिनि जिष्णुनुते भगवति हेशितिकण्ठकुटुम्बिनि भूरि कुटुम्बिनि भूरि कृते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते सुरवरवर्षिणि दुर्धरदर्शिनि दुर्मुखमर्षिनि हर्षरते त्रिभुवनपोषिणि शङ्करतोषिणि किल्बिषमोषिनि घोषरते धनुजनिरोषिणि दितिशुकरोषिणि दुर्मथतोषिनि सिन्धुसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते
Hi guys, thank you for joining us. Hope the audio is coming fine. Let me know if it isn't. We have for the second time with us Professor Kausik Gangopadhyay, Professor of Economics at IIM Kozhikode or Kozhikode. How do you pronounce it, sir?
Kozhikode, yes.
I see. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
It's a huge honor to have you back. And guys, for those of you who don't know yet or haven't read that book yet, his book, The Majoritarian Myth, is breaking down every possible myth there is on. See, most myths in India in political science and sociology and policy making are based on some myths that have been debunked in this book. If you just read this book, most of left's narrative today falls apart. Okay, so thank you for writing that book. I hope more people read it as soon as possible. And have you had any academic counters to it? Or has it started any debate in the academic circles? Because outside the academia, it's very popular already.
So academically, I mean, so the right-wing portals they have written, and there's some mild criticism from one or two, but mostly it is a praise.
Okay.
But left, I have actually requested so many of my leftist and liberal friends to write a critique about it, and I also promised them that whatever you will write, I'll post in my own social media so that it will get the same publicity that I give to my book. Nobody has come up with anyone. So I mean, maybe they're not taking me seriously, possible, but I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, I don't think they can come up with any counters other than absolutely made up fairy tales. So, sir,
There are
growing up,
very good criticism from Sikant Talegari and others, and they actually said that it is very difficult to counter the book. But anyway, so yeah, thanks. And of course, my apologies to the audience, whom I actually, I mean, they are very patient about me, but I made them, I made this entire thing late by a few minutes, 7-8 minutes.
Yeah, no problem.
I apologize for that.
Yeah. So, sir, growing up, we've always been given hints in some film discussion circles that Hirak Raja Deshe was a subtle criticism of Indira Gandhi's actions. So, you wrote an amazing, fantastic thread analyzing how it might be actually a criticism of Mao's China. So, sir, how did you come up on that idea?
Firstly, when I read these things, I mean, Satyajit Roy, so when the interviews I read, he sort of said that, well, it is about, general children's movie. So he was avoiding the topic. Some of my friends told me who actually know film well, that it is actually, he said, hinted at least, if maybe in closer circles, maybe in also wider circles, that it is actually about Indira Gandhi.
Okay.
Now, what happens? So basically, if you want to see at one level, the film actually mimics any kind of dictator. I mean, the kind of strategies they employ and all this kind of thing. But I wanted to be very specific about the details, and I really admire Satyajit Ray a lot, because if I see his films, except one or two, I think Abhijan is an exception. There is no hero or villain. Everybody has a very much good point of view, and which is worth holding, right? Upholding.
Yeah.
Now, but so I thought that if it is a movie like that, it must have a deeper kind of thing, and he must have given some hints somewhere. So I was looking at it. So this hypothesis, I just made it public now, but I was thinking of it for many years, and I also spoke about like 10, 15 people about it before going
Okay.
public. And
Hmm.
they sort of, I said, well, this is the my point of view. How do you say it?
Hmm.
And they could not invalidate me. So,
Hmm.
so I thought, well, this is a good time now that I am back in social media. So I was in social media like 5 years ago. Then I quit it because of these projects. But now
Hmm.
I'm back, so I thought, well, let me just introduce my, this thing to the, follow my social media followers
Yeah.
and readers,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So, sir, what was the first thing that set you off? What triggered the view?
So first thing that actually triggered me, that he gives a very clear hint. I don't know, we want to show the audience the movie or not, but there's a sequence that Guppy and Bagha, they are wandering around in different places, and they
Hmm.
are a song, and then at the end of the song there's the Himalayas. So basically it meant to mean that you are near the Himalayas, right?
Yeah.
Then it
Yeah.
starts, and then there's a pointing out to this there's a mountain, or it's
Hmm.
actually hill, but yeah, but it's
Hmm.
supposed to represent a mountain like Himalayas, and
Hmm.
this country is our, basically outside this mountain.
Right.
So that is sort of a very subtle hint, right? He did not talk about
Right.
this ending up in Himalaya and this and over the
Yeah.
mountain, right? So it
Yeah.
is actually locating to China from an Indian audience,
Yeah. 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 Geographically. So,
geographically, right?
yeah. So go on. So, what other points did you find out?
Huh. So I think then the second point is why this king is so special. I mean, what is the basic characteristic of this king?
Hmm.
So outside world, he is the messiah of the laborers and farmers.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, we know that Communist Party and all these kind of things. I mean,
Yeah.
how do they see? But inside, of course, laborers and farmers sort of have absolutely no
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And this is something you don't see in Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi
Right.
was, of course, socialist and other things, but it was
Yeah.
not about farmers and laborers. It is about
Yeah.
generally for anti-poverty kind of movement, right?
Yeah.
Not. The third thing that actually sets you apart is
Yeah.
actually this idea of these statues and other things. I mean,
Hmm.
Indira Gandhi, she did not install her own statue or anything like that. I mean, not that I know about it at least.
Hmm.
But then, if you go to any communist country, and Mao's China is not an exception, the leaders used to
Right.
install a huge statue of himself, right? I mean, that is what
Yeah.
happened also.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think many of us, we do not know about cultural revolution, even in the people in the right, or
Right.
Mao very well. So here is a wonderful book. So this came out in 2006 and 7.
Okay.
So this is the Mao the Unknown Story, and this person
Okay.
Yung Chang. Yung Chang
Okay.
was the daughter of a high-ranking communist officer, and then
Okay.
her father was kind of censored and I don't know,
Okay.
insulted, humiliated terribly by Mao, and
Okay.
then she couldn't have escaped and to America and other things,
Hmm.
actually Britain, and then of course John Halliday. He's the husband of Miss Chang, and
Hmm.
basically both are historians. So this book
Okay.
has a very amazing insight on Mao, and
I
I
see.
actually take uh, point by point, and I
Right.
saw all the similarities coming out. And of course, so
Hmm.
another thing is if you see the entire movie, so this is a theory, of course, but then if you see the entire movie, Satyajit Ray, he was also sort of socialist camp, right? We all know about
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and but and of course he did this movie Abhijan, which is basically a
Yeah.
validation of communist theory in some sense, like class enemy or sort of things you can see emerge out.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
his later movies, they kind of changed. If you see the perspective,
Hmm.
Simabadho, Pratidwandi, all
Yeah.
these places, see the other point of view also started emerging. So
Yeah.
it is not a monologue of one class struggle or anything like that.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
if you come to this, those are made in the 70s, right, 60s and
Yeah.
70s. And then if
Yeah.
you come to this movie, so basically he's getting, and he was I think sir, a very enlightened person.
Hmm.
Unlike and he actually had a lot of debate with Mrinal Sen, actually very acrimonic debate, I think in the 60s with
Hmm.
Mrinal Sen. So Mrinal Sen
Hmm.
was the chief communist ideologue, and so
Hmm.
they some of insulted. I mean, I think it was insult to his
Hmm.
movie and said, well, it's not worth. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with this movie and all this. First, he wrote it
Hmm.
very subtly, but then Vinal came up, and then there's a
Hmm.
bitter acrimony. But then
Hmm.
eventually it went down and they became friends again. But it actually shows that he was thinking outside the party line, right? I mean, he was not a party line person per se.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then he actually, if you see the starting of the movie, this Hirak Rajar Deshe, if you see there's a song, and then basically Guppy and Bagha, they are saying these times are changing, people are getting older, we need to go to
Hmm.
different places
Hmm.
and know the experience. What does it
Hmm.
indicate? It indicates that over time we need to update our beliefs and other things, right? So that's
Yeah.
a very certain thing, I think, but yeah.
Yeah. And you wrote an amazing point here that how did that king get into power, and how is that similar with China? Can you do you remember that point?
Yeah, I think this is a lot of times. So this when they met the Udayan Pandit, right? This guy,
Hmm.
the Soumitra was acting as the protagonist.
Yeah.
So he was basically saying that before there was a good king and this guy king was disposed of, and this
Hmm.
person came into power.
Hmm.
Now, of course, Chinese story is very similar. Chinese
Hmm.
story is of a very huge discontinuity. Initially, it was the
Hmm.
Kuomintang government by Chiang Kai-shek, and
Hmm.
this government then so Mao was a smaller power, and
Hmm.
there's a struggle between them in the 30s, 20s even in the 30s,
Hmm.
and then the Second World came up, and then these two forces they sort of made a sort of a what I say sort of like agreement that we will not fight among each other because the Japanese are attacking us.
Right.
And then when the world is over, this war is over,
Hmm.
then they tried to crack this Chiang Kai-shek, but he
Hmm.
failed. I mean, 1946, 47 failed, and then
Hmm.
of course then Mao took over, right? So basically, and
Right.
this elite, this basically Kuomintang elite, they migrated to this fisherman's
Hmm.
island, which is now called Taiwan, and they set up
Okay.
the called Republic of China,
I
which is
see.
called Taiwan, right? And
Okay.
this original mainland China, now it is
Hmm.
called the People's Republic of China. Of course, this
Okay.
is very much you see in the all the communist countries. There's a name of people, democratic, emphatically being shown, right? This North Korea,
Yeah.
it is the Democratic Republic of China, right? Yeah. So this is, I mean, I think in the Yes Minister, I saw a jokes. So these
Hmm.
guys were talking and then said, okay, so which kind of country is it? Said, no, name is democratic. Oh, this is a comic country because the
Right.
name is democratic, right? I mean, so
Right.
again, you can see here also. So Gupi and Bagha, they were kind of saying, well, these people are laborers. They would not be able to judge the true worth of diamond and something like that. And this
Right.
person said, well, don't belittle the laborers, right? Utpal Datta, the
Hmm.
king
Yeah.
of the Hirak Diamond King. He's saying that
Hmm.
don't belittle the farmers. So
The dictator
basically,
himself is saying it.
he is saying it, although he
Yeah.
is the person who is to belittle them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and then actually, I mean, I don't know whether Satyajit knew about it. This actually amazingly matches the Chang's description on Mao. And we are often think that Mao was from a peasant family. It was not so. He was from
Okay.
a family with a lot of land. I mean, it's like
Okay.
Punjab farmers, right? They are being
Okay.
called this farmer movement, but they are
Yeah.
actually a lot of land. Right? I mean, they're sort of like
Yeah. Yeah.
what is the class enemy for the communists before used to say
Yeah.
because they have a lot of land. And Mao
Yeah.
actually comes from such a family. But of course,
Yeah.
he conveniently dons the peasant hat and kind of moves into it.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of the also the another story.
I
But
see.
if you see Indira Gandhi, there is no
Hmm.
such discontinuity, right? So
Hmm.
Indira Gandhi inherited because the same Congress
Right.
party was going on, right? And she kind of also, her father was
Right.
also there long time, and then there's a brief gap with Lal
Right.
Bahadur Shastri. But nobody
Right.
was disposed or anything like that, right?
Right. So you're not saying that Satyajit Ray did this deliberately. You are saying that it just so happens that it has a similarity with Mao's China.
No, no, I don't think so. I think Ray did it very,
Okay.
very deliberately because he wanted to
Okay.
see any art, any person from who is doing art. What is their
Hmm.
goal? They want to have their legacy known after they are gone.
Right.
Now,
Right.
if you are a really puppet of your own time, nobody will remember
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
But there is a contradiction. If you are really not a puppet of your time, it's very difficult to gain popularity because the existing social forces will not
Yeah.
help you, right? If Rao
Yeah.
really Sotaji said, well, this is a commentary on Mao's China, I don't think
Hmm.
he would have been able to make any more films, right? I mean, all the actors, look
Yeah.
at them. They are all communists, believe are in communist ideology. And
Yeah.
communist ideology is a totalitarian ideology, right? It does not kind of
Yeah.
allow any dissent.
Hmm.
So he would
Yeah.
have been gone. Now, I
Yeah.
think as a creator, I mean, I don't know, of course, Satyajit Ray personally. I mean, I didn't know, or even I.
Hmm.
But the way I see a creator's mind, the
Hmm.
person wants immortality through
Yeah.
his creation. So that
Yeah.
doesn't have to. It cannot have a very contemporary prejudices being done. So I know
Hmm.
he knew that it is Maoist China. It's a horrible place, even though it doesn't look like that.
Right.
But I mean, in the communist literature, so but
Hmm.
it doesn't look like that. But otherwise, people know about it. But now, if he
Right.
says so, then he will be ostracized. So what's the
Hmm.
choice? The choice is make a film where the hints are being all given, so that
Right.
the intelligent people can later decode it. But of course, he
Exactly.
would not have to face the contemporary punishment, right, for being truthful.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that's how we kind of.
So, sir, I think this could be called subtle messaging and stuff in
Hmm,
filmmaking.
hmm, hmm.
So, how important do you think it is? Do you see any movies with this kind of intelligent, subtle messaging on the non-left filmmaking genres anymore?
Yeah, only problem is my knowledge about movie is not very large. I mean, and of course, a
Okay.
non-left movie mapping is not very easy
Hmm.
because there is no audience. But I see a movie. There's a movie called Ninochka. I mean, but it's not very subtle. It's quite obvious. But I think the movie Ninochka, it was um, made by an. I'll just come. It is 1939, I think. Yeah, 1939, and it
Okay.
was made by. Very famous movie maker. It's called Ernst Lubitz. So
Okay.
Ernst Lubitz. So this movie was made, and this was a very Greta Garbo is there. Greta Garbo is there
Okay.
in the lead role, which is the Ninochka, and he
Okay.
actually shows the Soviet problems and everything. So he was a
I see.
German-born,
Okay.
American movie maker, and there is a
Okay.
very subtle messaging in the sense that three communists, they are looking for a communist guy. They were thinking, and they said, pointed out to the guy and say, oh well, this looks like a communi, this looks like a comrade, so they are going for that guy. Suddenly that guy turned out, it is happening in a Paris. So I mean,
Hmm.
pre second world Paris, so every people, all these different people are there, and it
Hmm.
turned out to be a Nazi. This guy say Heil
Okay.
Hitler. Basically it's subtle messaging that communism and Nazism, they are actually out appearance wise, they are very, I
Right.
mean, they're very
Right.
similar kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about in the Indian industries, Indian movie industries? Subtle
Yeah, I
messaging in
don't.
non-left Indian movies?
Yeah, I don't think I remember any. I mean, actually, there's a dearth of intelligent right-wing movies, I think, in India.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, I mean, to be fair, I mean, Ray was very much on the central. I mean, most of his movies are kind of very centrist kind of thing.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, you want me to, I mean, talk about more, I don't know, audience questions might be coming, but you want me to more talk about the similarities?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
uh,
Your next point is that the scientist and the brainwashing.
Scientists and the brainwashing, right? You look at
That's
this
also a similar
scientist.
thing.
He looks like a very orthodox Jew. I mean, this is
Right.
Orthodox
Let's
Jew
just
cap he's
show
wearing.
the let's just share
Yeah,
the
yeah.
screen here.
Huh. Please, go ahead. Right. So this is the guy. I mean, this is my tweet, but yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. So this is the guy. He looks like an Orthodox Jew. Yeah. So this
Right.
is the first point I was making before that mountain point, point A. What
Yeah.
was the point B? I just forgot about it.
That we already discussed. How did the
Where
king
is
get to power? That is what
How
that was
did
very
it get to
interesting.
power, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you go to this Jew guy. Now he
Yeah.
was basically, he looks like a Jew, right? And if you
Right.
see in the entire palace, there is a Star of David, basically six. What is it called? This is Chinese checkerboard kind of symbol, right? It's called the Star of
Right.
David.
Okay.
In
Okay.
Hinduism, it's called Shiva
Which
Shakti.
yantra in Hindu symbols?
Hindi is a jantra. It's called Shiva Shakti. The lower
Right.
triangle is Shakti, and the upper one
Yeah.
is Shiva.
8
Yeah,
directions.
8 direction. 8 or 6, you mean 6 triangles, right? Okay, I see
Right.
how you look at it.
Yeah.
So basically, that thing is actually, you see, in the behind the king's throne and all the places liberally.
Yeah.
So what is this? So of course, Karl Marx was a Jew, right? We all know about it,
Right.
and we also
Yeah.
know that he. I mean, Karl Marx. If you read Karl Marx,
Right.
he never said that I'm Jew, and he
Yeah.
actually referred to Jews as third person. but the entire
Right.
world used to consider him Jew, right? I mean, from
Okay.
Hitler on the right, I mean, whatever you call it, Nazi side, he was a
Right.
Jew. Even if
Hmm.
you look at the Americans, they also used to refer Karl Marx as a Jew. I mean,
I
so
see.
basically, even the communists, they used to say it's a Jew because Jews are the very intelligent people. So you see, this
Okay.
theory has to come from the most intelligent persons, right? So,
Okay.
and it is also scientifically true that these Ashkenazi Jews, they have a higher than average IQ. I
IQ.
mean, their
Yeah.
IQ is
That paper
Ashkenazi
got
Jews.
the researchers cancelled forever.
Yeah, but it was, I mean, I am very surprised because I knew this thing and I presented it also in one of my paper, like in 2009 or so. But that
Hmm.
time, this cancel culture was less rabid, so nobody even thought about canceling me or anything like
Yeah.
that. But I
They got
talking
cancelled much
America also,
later.
much
Yeah.
later. So,
Yeah.
I mean, those times the scientific facts used to be sacrosanct. But now
Yeah.
the liberal ideas are sacrosanct. The science has to toe
Yeah.
down to them. So
Yeah.
now, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, yeah. Go ahead, please.
I wanted to get to that point as well. That
Huh, huh.
even a few minutes back, you said that
Hmm,
communism is a totalitarian idea. Now,
hmm,
also in this example, also we see that as well, which you have described in your book as this totalitarianism happens in these ideas because they are theory based ideas, theory based identities,
linear
and
theories.
they don't evolve with time. They are not
Hmm,
experiential identities. Could
hmm,
you elaborate a little on that, because many of our viewers are probably watching you for the first time today,
hmm,
and if
hmm,
they
hmm.
haven't read the book yet, this will be a sort of a brief of that book as well.
Thank you for making and giving me a chance to advertise for the book.
Uh,
But basically, the idea is in a linear theory, you give the theory. Now, the
mm,
theory cannot change. Whatever data
mm,
comes, the theory is
yeah.
sacrosanct. So
Yeah.
that's what they call it. Like this Marxian dialectics, it is like sacrosanct. You can't change it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So now, I mean, this is what, of course, this started with Christianity. So what is the Christianity says? Christianity says basically this is the idea that Jesus is the last prophet and you need to go to the church
Yeah.
for salvation.
Hmm.
Now, what is the proof that
Hmm.
Christianity actually works to deliver
Hmm.
peace? So, I
Hmm.
mean, in my book, I said in two different ways. One is in collective ways. Collective ways, if you see that in Christian countries, they were very violent before getting power. So basically, there was a big tussle between all the Christian forces in Europe. It used to be
Hmm.
called Christendom in
Right.
say for 15th, 16th century. I mean, so
Hmm.
basically, who will win, the Catholics or the new groups which are collectively called the
Hmm.
Protestants, right?
Hmm.
And now,
Hmm.
essentially, it found out. So there's a millions. I think 8 or 10 million people died. So if you consider that time's population, it is, I
I
think,
see.
maybe worse than World War II. But what
I
happened then?
see.
Eventually, people found out that nobody could sort of win. So they
Hmm.
have to sort of agree to something called nationalism. Everybody will abide by their rules in their territory, but will not go to capture the other people.
The
And there
Westphalian
has to be,
Treaty.
this is Westphalian. Basically, there are many treaties, multiple treaties. This
Hmm.
is the Westphalia as a zone, so there are multiple treaties that is written there. But
Hmm.
basically, that is giving these different parties like this Prussian, or this Austro-Hungary Empire.
Hmm.
This formed that
Hmm.
time. Then again,
Right.
some power to the papal territories in Italy, and then
Hmm.
France. And there's a problem with the Belgium. I mean, there's a country there, and this country basically in this region, which is
Hmm.
now known Belgium and Holland, there's a split. The Catholic people who thought the basically the religion is more important, they came
Hmm.
under Belgium, and the
Hmm.
Protestant people who thought the language is more important, they went to
Hmm.
the Holland, Netherlands, right?
Right.
And basically, Belgians they used to produce per square centimeter highest number of missionaries, right? Because they are so
Oh,
religiously devoted people. And
I
so if
see.
you go to any English medium convent school, I mean, I'm
Right.
talking about in 80s, 1980s. I did not study in one, but I had many friends.
Okay.
I had many friends. I probably have now also, but having now also. But they used to study them, and then these padri, most of their teachers used to say they are Belgian. I mean, this padri,
I
foreign
see.
missionary.
Okay.
And of course, if you see the Kundra, he's a Belgian, right? His father was a padri. I mean, he was a very
Right. Right.
he's kind of a religious person. And
Right.
then he described, and then what happened then, basically the secularization came, and the
Hmm.
eldest child used to be basically a missionary. I mean, in Catholic missionary, right? So he used to take the vow of celebration, go out. But that was
Okay.
changing. And the eldest son used to be the most rebellious one. Say, I will not go to the church because the new secular ideas are coming. They used to be more common. And I think
Hmm.
Hales also in the comic gang for the while, small
Yeah.
time is intelligent enough to be remain a communist. And
Yeah.
then then basically then now it has become a much more secular place. I mean, as you know today. So, but I'm
Right.
trying to say that this entire thing was kind of crumbling.
Right.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think some issues here in internet. So I mean, in my hand, weather is not well.
Yeah, your video is paused, but your audio is coming fine.
Oh, not a problem. So I'll stop the cam. I'll just start a
Yeah, yeah.
little while later.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Then what happened then? Basically, then after nationalism came, initially for a while it went well, but then of course the imperialism started. Right? We know the
Yeah.
Napoleonic, first the Spanish wars, then the Napoleonic wars,
Right.
and then essentially the Europeans, they were technologically smart enough to discover there's a lot of heathens outside, and we can
Yeah.
take the moral permission of invading them by means of
Yeah.
Christianity, and
Yeah.
of course we will gain worldly profits a lot, and
Hmm.
that's how it will be good money. Both it will go both way fine, worldly way as
Yeah.
well as the moral way, right?
Yeah.
And then of course some people took the ethical way too seriously, like the Spanish and the
Hmm.
Portuguese, and they failed.
Yeah.
And the British, the church was under the king,
Hmm.
so basically the spiritual was not that important. The king's revenues are much more important, so they
Right.
were much low in their proselytization strategy. So they said, well,
I
it
see.
has to be given some token sort of chance, but actually we want to get money and other things, right? We want jobs for
Right.
our people and all these things, and they
Right.
actually succeeded.
Hmm.
So this is how it actually sort of went on. So I'm
Hmm.
saying, trying to say that the Christianity did not bring any peace. So if
Right.
you look at a personal way, personal life, okay, maybe some Christians got peace, but if I have given some references of papers that
Hmm.
actually shows that in the present world also, many
Hmm.
non-Christian nations, Eastern nations, are happier on average. If
I
you look
see.
at a Gandhiji, Mahatma Gandhi, I
Yeah.
mean, some people may not agree with Mahatma, but let's go with the conventional name. So he actually used to be celebrated as a great Christian throughout the West. And when he went to the Italy, people said, "Well, he's the saint coming after Jesus. Let's see him." And some people went and say, "Well, I have bought a lottery ticket. Could you please predict who will win?" So all these kind of things. So basically, but if you look at Gandhiji, he was not a Christian, and he actually
Hmm.
said categorically that Christians are not a solution to anywhere. It is sort
I
of
see.
uh now basically. So this entire story was basically Mahatma Gandhi was a great Christian, but then if he was not a Christian, then why do you
Yeah.
need Christianity, right? To become a kind of a Christian virtues. You don't need Christians. You
Right.
don't need to be Christians to have the Christian virtues, right? So
Hmm.
basically, in this point, so if you look at data wise, it is not fitting.
Hmm.
It is
Hmm.
not fitting, and they also know about it. And
Yeah.
because that's why in Japan, where the resistance was very high, these
Hmm.
Christian nations they withdraw. They are not pushing for any Christian occupation there, and
The
where things are
Nagasaki bomb was dropped on a church on a Christian neighborhood.
because they don't care, right? At the end of the
Yeah,
day,
they
because
didn't
they
care.
know very few
Yes.
Christians are there.
Yeah.
So basically, this entire thing is like this. Now, if you look at, but the theory is there given, so they have to
Hmm.
adhere to this theory, right? Till the new
Right.
theory comes up. Similarly,
Hmm.
if you look at
Exactly.
communism, so the idea was you have to make like a. So this is the first characteristic. This linear theory
Hmm.
given, no
Hmm.
empirical.
Hmm.
Second is if you just give a theory, you can be a
Right.
philosopher, but nobody will take you very seriously. I mean, how many people know the name of Kausik Gangopadhyay? I mean, but so many
Hmm.
people know the name of Karl Marx because these theories have the aspect for otherization. Otherization is basically if you don't accept my theories, you will
Right.
be cancelled, burnt at stake. It used to be burnt at stake in the previous times, right? So many
Yeah.
witches were burnt in Europe, right? Because they are doing
Yeah.
the pagan practices
Yeah.
and all these kind of things. And
Yeah.
then, of course, now they are cancelled. So basically,
Yeah.
people have to be otherized. Now,
Exactly.
if you see communism, the same story is true. Now,
Yeah.
so my argument in the entire book is we have done this secularism for
Hmm.
getting a peaceful and harmonious society. Now,
Hmm.
if you are doing the secularism, you are assuming the religion as a category.
Right.
Now, of course, religion is not a good category because the Abrahamic religions or Semitic religions, before we used to
Hmm.
call it,
Hmm.
they are not in the same category as the other cultural experiences, like which are called loosely called religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Shintoism, all this kind of thing. So
Hmm.
this is not a very well defined category. But
Right.
if you may, and number one, number two is secularism was very high in communist countries, but it did not bring any peace there. But it brought genocide and other bad things there. So
Yeah.
in a way, it has failed. So
Hmm.
I humble submission is, if you really want to ban some things, make a sort of like a category called linear theory. If you are a
Hmm.
linear theory, you are essentially saying it's a support for imperialism. It cannot bring any peace and harmony. The existing
Hmm.
religions, they can modify themselves, correct themselves to remove really this linear theory part and remain there. So
Right.
there is no problem with any religion moving. And but we can,
Right.
as a humanity, we can move on to a greater level of peace and more sustainable level of peace and harmony.
Right. Sir, you just exit the link and then rejoin. Then maybe your camera will be fixed. I think your internet is fine now.
Okay, so I'll exit, leave studio.
And then come to that same link again. Refresh
Definitely.
and then. अभय बोलছে कार्ड इज इक्वल टू शार्ल इज इक्वल टू शार्लाटन बाबा वाह मोदी जी वाह Rahul no I don't know I don't think so I think he's trying to beat CPIM Ito sir is here hello sir yeah camera is fine now
Thank you.
okay
Hmm.
so sir I wanted to I'm just curious have you read Dostoevsky
I read a bit of it.
okay have you read the Brothers Karamazov
No, I don't think I've read it.
okay people say
Hmm.
that the Brothers Karamazov basically knowingly or unknowingly predicted everything that happened in the 1940s
Oh,
about
is
100
it?
years back yeah
Okay, I'll take.
A-
I'll definitely read
and
it then. Hmm.
most people in the Anglo-Saxon area, Anglo-Saxon people area,
Hmm.
meaning the white first world countries, have this idea
Hmm.
that the Brothers Karamazov is the greatest story ever written,
Oh,
greatest book of
acha.
all time.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
So that was very similar
What
to
is,
everything you were saying.
what is that movie? Omar Ali was there um,
I don't know.
as actor. I think mm, that is. What is that movie? Omar Ali. You know this guy who acted in Lawrence of Arabia. This guy was there on
Okay,
Russian movie. So there he was the Omar Sharif, not Omar Ali. Omar Sharif is there. Omar
I see.
Sharif. So I think there's that's a based on Dostoevsky movie maybe. Okay,
Oh,
it will
I
come to
see.
my my mind. I think you
Okay.
can go on. Uh,
Yes, sir. Then
so
another fascinating point you
I think
you
the Dr.
observed.
Zivago, right? No, not Dr. Zivago.
Oh, okay, okay.
Dr. Zivago,
Yeah,
right? I think the Russian
yeah,
experience, right?
yeah. Dr. Zivago is very famous for its music as well.
Acha. You must be knowing, yeah, of course.
Shutting down of the school music and cultural revolution. Also a similarity between Hirak Raja Deshe and Mao's China.
So what happened here? See, you have to understand how this entire cultural revolution happened.
Hmm.
So again, you need to read this book, Jung Chang and Halliday, very, very seriously.
Hmm.
It's a very book worth reading, and they have
Hmm.
put all their lives. So basically, everybody has sort of like a prime project in their life, and this is the
Hmm.
prime project in I think Chang's life. But anyway, so
Hmm.
basically, what happened? So before cultural revolution, there's a lot of similarity again there, but
Hmm.
basically there's a lot of famines that happened in Mao's China,
Right.
right? So Mao
Right.
first wanted to make his legacy very famous. I put it maybe a minor point later, but it's a very good
Hmm.
point, I think. So
Hmm.
basically, then I think again my video is gone, right? So shall I
Yeah.
stop it? I think yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Close the camera
basically,
then. Yeah.
huh. So basically, then what happened? The Mao he used to give a lot of money to other places to get things.
Hmm.
Now, and these they have given statistics. So
Hmm.
basically, Mao's time, the amount of aid to other countries was like 6.6 and percent or more of their GDP.
Okay.
Generally in USA it is less than 0.1%. In
Okay.
all the general countries it is less than 0.5%.
I
And
see.
China was not a very rich country. It was as poor as in India. People used
Yeah.
to utter India and China together. And if you look at also the per capita GDP,
Hmm.
we were, even in spite of our disastrous things like socialism and everything, India
Hmm.
and China was almost the same level. Maybe India was little higher in 1978.
I
Before,
see.
after this Deng come to power, the GDP level
Hmm.
shoot up because he was a very
Right.
practical and
Okay.
sincere person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Now what happened? Mao is to give all this money, and then say they basically said first, these people will need 200 kilogram of So there's a measurement issue, accounting issue.
Hmm.
So they are saying this
Hmm.
is a equivalent of grain. So basically,
Hmm.
it can be different grains of different weightage. Well, let's say 200 kg.
Hmm.
But then actual practice they brought down to 140 or 110 kg later.
Hmm.
So basically, people are having food only half, right? So in
Hmm.
Bengali, you say
Yeah.
"Azbeta khawa." They are
Right.
literally having that. And
Hmm.
then basically 1949, 58 or 59, there's a disastrous experiment with collective farming and all these kind of things. And then
Hmm.
essentially this entire economy broke down. And then
Right.
1960, someone was visiting Beijing, and they
Hmm.
saw all the leaves of the trees in Beijing are gone. People are eating all the trees of the leaves. So it was so severe. Millions of people died. I mean, this is the general trend in all the communist countries,
Yeah.
because it does not match with the real life experience. The moment they
Yeah.
go to this collectivization of agriculture, it is
Yeah.
to backfire with sort of like a very much like a famine and other things. And
Yeah.
Mao's China was at the top of that. And
Hmm.
then basically, if you see this Hirak Rajar, they say people are actually complaining, right? The laborer and the
Yeah.
farmer. I think this
Yeah.
Ali or something. What is the name of this guy? This farmer before. So he was. They are
Yeah.
complaining like we can't have this food and other things, right? And
Yeah.
they were brainwashed. They
Hmm.
are brainwashed by a theory. Now,
Yeah.
if you want to know this amount of brainwashing, you need to
Hmm.
read Orwell's Animal Farm. So there's
Hmm.
a character called Boxer. Boxer
Okay.
is a horse who used to do the hard work, like laborer or
Okay.
farmer.
Okay.
And Boxer used to not only know the theory, and he used to be deprived of everything. Rations are deprived, nothing is coming. And the response he is going to say, well, I'm going to work half an hour more from tomorrow. So this guy was so these are the leaders of the farmers and the laborers. Those who
Hmm.
those who come to the court, king's court in the
Hmm.
beginning, two of them, right?
Hmm.
One laborer and one farmer. They were
Yeah.
brainwashed. They
Hmm.
are brainwashed by the virtues of communism that may not happen now, but it will
Hmm.
happen in due time when the theory will really realize in the on
Yeah.
earth. Um,
Yeah.
so and then of course they were brainwashed by that, and so they are
Hmm.
discarding their real life experience and parroting the slogans. So this
Hmm.
is the entire idea of this machine, right? So this the Jewish scientist, he is giving a theory, and this theory is brainwashing people. It's
Yeah.
brainwashing people so much they can't think their own. They're only saying the slogans. And I
Hmm.
think if you read Animal Farm and this book by Mao by Chang and Halliday, you will have a
Hmm.
very good understanding why is it happening.
Hmm. Hmm. And sir, would you say communism is directly or indirectly the biggest threat the world faces today?
I would think it's the liberalism
Hmm.
at the end of the day.
Hmm.
So what happened? Even though communism has done a lot of violence and other things,
Hmm.
there is a problem. I mean, at the end of the day, Marx was a scientific person, I would say.
Okay.
He had a scientific acumen,
Hmm.
and the way he formed his theory,
Hmm.
I don't think his theory is. You see, no theory is 100% wrong. Theories have some element, grains of truth,
I
but
see.
then the other part, which is not true, that
Hmm.
backfires, right? And that comes in the empirical experience, right?
Hmm.
So in our Indian culture, we don't believe in a theory. We
Hmm.
used to say those who believe in theory, we used to call them Nastik.
Hmm.
Nastik doesn't mean really atheist.
Hmm.
There's a book I know Kusal Mehra's has come up. I have not read the
Yeah.
book yet, but
Okay.
Nastik used to mean actually basically someone which does not exist. Right? Asti means exist, and someone
Okay.
which does not exist is called Nastik. So
Okay.
someone who believes something which is ethereal, which doesn't exist in real life, like a theory,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
Unrealized theory. That is called
Hmm.
Nastik.
Hmm.
Some people used to call, well, Buddhism is Nastik. What does it mean? It means, well, you have fantastic theories, but that does not describe the real life.
Hmm.
So it is a criticism whether you have experiential understanding or not, this Nastik
Hmm.
word, right? Astik
Yeah.
means you are defining something which actually exists on this earth.
Hmm.
Now, if you see from this point of view,
Hmm.
now if you see Charbak, well, even Charbak, well, called Nastik and all these things by
Yeah.
others, but Charbak did not say so, because
Okay.
Charbak's theory is not about God. It is
Hmm.
a theory whether it matches your experiential understanding or not, right?
Hmm.
So this is the idea, right? So in that thing,
Okay.
even Buddhism, they did not call themselves Nastik. They said no, we are not Nastik, right? We
I
know
see.
Buddhism is agnostic about God, right? Existence about
Hmm.
God, all these things. They themselves wrote it down in the Lotus Sutra and all these other places. I mean, there's no mention of God anywhere. But I
I
mean,
see.
Iswara, this tattva is called
Yeah.
Iswara. Iswara
Hmm.
is a tattva which is defined in the. I mean, I'm am I digressing too much? Then please
No,
stop
no,
me.
no, no, no,
Huh.
no. It's great.
So
We can
basically,
have a variety
Iswara,
of knowledges.
so Iswara is a tattva that is defined in the yoga philosophy. So in the
Hmm.
Sankhya philosophy, there are 24 tattas. Tattas means percepted reality, percepted part of reality, fundamental reality. So there are 24 tattas that defines this universe. Now, yoga, there is no Isvara there. There is a Prakriti and Purus. These are two different kind of. Prakriti is basically everything. So all these 24 tattas are there, both in Prakriti and Purus, but they are sort of, there's a dialectics there, which is kind of inspired marks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm claiming too many things, but I have all the proofs and other things. Now,
Okay.
what happened? If you, I mean, if you have a question, I'll be happy to expound. But let me now talk
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, basically, then, but Yoga Darsana, it adds another facet, which is called
Hmm.
Isvara.
Hmm.
Now, if you see this Isvara, it was not acknowledged in many of the Vedic philosophies. If you look at these six of the Vedic philosophies, they are
Yeah.
Nyaya, Yoga, Sankhya, Purva Mimamsa, Uttar
Hmm.
Mimamsa, and Vaisesik.
Yeah.
Now, these philosophies are like six different dimensions. These are
Okay.
not like same thing you are defining, same thing you are saying six ways. No, the world cannot be looked holistically. We understand that. You have
Hmm.
to choose one sort of camera, right? I mean, if you have a camera, you have a sort of a one dimension you're looking at the camera. You
Yeah.
revolve the camera. I mean, those.
Hmm.
So I'm by profession. I was originally a statistician. We use
Hmm.
something called
Okay.
multivariate analysis, and
I
basically
see.
you move the camera different directions, and you get a part of the
Hmm.
reality. It's like that.
Right.
So one the
Hmm.
camera direction you are setting, you are
Hmm.
looking at the basically how materials are composed of, and you
Hmm.
get the Vaisesik Darsana, which is the
Hmm.
Kanad's Darshana, which is called the basically he was the person who defined uh, uh, basically this constitution of things and atoms and all these kind of ideas, right?
Right. Right.
Kana,
Right.
the idea of the
Kannada
discrete
Sutra.
part of the nature is discrete,
Yeah.
Kana,
Yeah.
which quantum theory, all this is coming from this Kanad, right? Now,
Hmm.
of course, Kanad does not acknowledge any Vaisheshik Darshan does not acknowledge any Ishvara. You don't need Ishvara
Hmm.
to define
Hmm.
to have this. If you look at Sankhya, which is basically how social forces move around, you don't need
Hmm.
Ishvara. You have
Hmm.
real things here. And then
Hmm.
that's what is basically dialectics is all about, Prakriti and Purush.
Yeah.
If you look at basically again uh, uh, Purva Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa
Hmm.
says basically there is no part of Moksha in Purva Mimamsa. So now the entire Hinduism has a big problem, which is the dominance of Uttar Mimamsa Vedanta, which is done by Shankara. Now,
Okay.
before Sankara, the dominant philosophy was Purva Mimamsa. So, the biggest
Okay.
scholar before Sankara was Kumaril Bhatta. Kumaril
Hmm.
Bhatta actually defeated all the Buddhist philosophers in many big arguments. He was a
Right.
Purva Mimamsa.
Hmm.
And there's a Purva Mandan Mishra, right, whom actually
Yeah.
Sankara defeated. He was
Yeah.
also Purva Mimamsa. Now, Purva Mimamsa
I
does not
see.
acknowledge any moksha. It was
I
a,
see.
and some people say, I don't know whether they're right or wrong. I don't have that much acumen or
Hmm.
erudition or maybe sadhana.
Hmm.
But some people say Sankara actually stole this idea of moksha from Buddhism, and they might as
I
well be
see.
correct as well. Huh.
I
And this
see.
this is why in the text he is called Prachanna Buddha. Shankara is called Prachanna Buddha, means this
I
guy is
see.
Buddhist. If you look at the Buddhist philosophies, right, this world anatma, and then Sankara is saying the same thing. He's acknowledging Atman, but he's saying, well, moksha is everything. So then look at everything, go back and leave this thing. Uh,
I
so
see.
then some questions are coming. Should I address this on Kumaril and all
Yeah,
this
if
kind of
you
stuff?
want. Otherwise, I'm just highlighting
Huh,
the questions and the
huh.
comments brought up
But someone is saying
parallelly.
that Kumaril Bhatta belong. I could not take everything, but Kumaril Bhatta belong
Yeah.
to Kashmir Saiva sect. So here you see Santan is asking something. So basically, what
Hmm.
happened? There is something called sadhana.
Hmm.
Sadhana can be of any deity, and
Hmm.
there is something called philosophy or
Hmm.
darsana. Now,
Hmm.
Shankaracharya himself was a Upashaka of Tripura
Hmm.
Upashak. In the Kanchipuram, you see Tripura. But his
Right.
philosophies are different. Right? His
Right.
philosophy was Advaita Vedantin. Similarly,
Hmm.
Kumaril Bhatta was a Kashmiri Shaivism, as he is rightly saying. But his philosophy was Purva Mimamsa. So, I mean, this is the
I
little bit
see.
of the topic, so I kind of not digress too much. But
No, no,
then
it's still
basically,
great.
so basically, this concept of Ishvara was not there in Purva Mimamsa. So basically, it says you
Hmm.
go to these other lokas when you die. There you take all the karma phalas with you. You take heaven and whatever you call it, but for finite time, and then you come back again, and this circle goes on. There's no
I
respite
see.
from this circle. So beautify this
Okay.
world. Then the circle becomes more pleasant. So that is the basically entire idea. And
Okay.
Uttar Mimamsa actually completely abnegates this thing, and that's why they have to be focused on more on Moksha and Isvara. And yoga is also for Isvara. And I said three things: Sankhya, Vedanta, Sankhya, Vaisheshik, and Purva Mimamsa. They are anti. They don't acknowledge the existence of Ishvara. Nyaya is saying a very agnostic view. Nyaya says, okay, Ishvara Pramana Bhavat means there is no proof that Ishvara exists or doesn't exist.
Okay.
So basically, we have a Chatuskan kind of logic. It's not only yes or no. It can be yes, it can be no, it can be yes and no, it can be no and yes. I mean, the dominance and other things. I mean, I think too many things. I mean, I'll just stop it here. But so basically, they are saying we don't know whether
No, I'm
Ishvara
fascinated.
Ishvara exists or not. So
Hmm.
it is a sort of so basically three philosophies are not acknowledging Ishvara. Yoga and Vittar Mimamsa, Vedanta is acknowledging it. And this philosophy which is called the Nyaya, it is sort of in between borderline kind of philosophy. Now
Okay.
this is sort of the so you see the Astika Darsana, these are the 6 Astika Darsanas, right, which are basically called the theist or
Yeah.
popular translation. But then they also don't exist. Many of them don't acknowledge Ishvara. So the idea of Astika Nastika is not about Ishvara. It is about whether you have experiential content in your preaching or not. That is the entire
Or
thing.
isn't it that whether you believe Veda to be the supreme authority or not?
Again, what is Veda? Veda
Sir,
is not
can
a
you
book.
just again leave the link and rejoin? Then maybe we can
Okay, I'll try again
see
more
you
time.
answer this question.
Huh.
Shaptarshi is saying Upanishads like Chandogya says Nacha Punarvartate, one shall not come back. Yes, sorry, you can do that on the next audience interaction live stream. Okay, sir is here.
Is it good?
Yeah, great, sir.
I think Saptarsi is having a lot of disagreements with me. Yeah, so it's philosophy. I mean, I actually respect your opinion, and actually, I mean, my sadhana is very limited. I consider myself very primary kind of person in a sadhana domain. So I don't want to disrespect you. It is possible you are also right. This is only my understanding, experiential understanding. Um,
Okay.
so that's fine, not a problem. Anyway, so now
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say that basically,
Yeah, so supremacy of Veda or not?
so Veda is not a book. So it is
Yeah.
basically the Christians, when you try to put Hinduism in their scheme of things, the way they define religion, they have to find a book, right? So there is a Torah and Old Testament for Hebrewism, and Bible for the Christians, and Quran for the Muslims. Where is the book for Hindus? And they asked our scholars, and they said, "Well,
It's a library.
it's a library." But then scholars said, "Well, we believe." Again, I think I'm there. Yeah. So they said,
Yeah.
"Well, Veda is our thing." But what is Veda? The word Veda comes from the word Vid. Vid is the same word that actually this is Proto-Indo-European languages all have Sanskrit connection. So the word video, right? My video is not coming in. So the word video, it is coming the same word vid.
Right.
So vid means to view, right? Vini visi vidi, the Caesar said, right?
Yeah.
And then basically this vid means to view. Whatever you're viewing, what is your experiential content, that is Veda. It's not a book. And that's why we say, well, most of the Veda is lost. Yeah, of course. Most of the experiential content is lost because nobody could record so much of experiential content.
I see.
So you see, it is conforming with Veda does not necessarily mean conforming to a book. It is conforming to experience or not. And this is the word entire thing
I
was
see.
discussed. I don't know. And now I'm
I
too
see.
digress. I don't know why are we saying
Sir,
all these things?
Sir, this is a great point. You should write a book, I think, specifically on this topic as well.
I have a book, but I need a lot of readers for this present book to for the other publishers to accept the other manuscript. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sir, do you know anything of this question? Can you see it on your screen?
Why didn't Khankar come to debate with scholars from Bengal? I think I would say that it's a very old time. I mean, there is a when is Shankar was actually, if I am correct, Shankaracharya was
640 AD or something.
but I don't believe that chronology. I
Okay.
think he has a disciple called King Sudhanya. Sudhanya has a copper edict, and Sudhanya's chronology is to be where he mentioned actually Shankara, and I
Okay.
think it is second century AD more. I think, but of course it
I
could be
see.
sixth century. But what
Okay. Okay.
happened is for the Indian scholars, he had to go to someone has to go to different parts. So why Sankara had to actually put four mathas in four places?
Hmm.
Because if you put a one matha, that is not good enough. That
Hmm.
means you have, locally you are kind of people are accepting it, but not the other people, right? So
Hmm.
basically that's why he went. But Bengala, maybe I don't know. Uh, I don't think there is any proof that he debated with the Bengali scholar, but it might have happened, right? Not everything was recorded and all these kind of things, or maybe
Right.
Bengal was not significant. I mean, right now I think Bengal was relatively not so significant as it was 100 years ago. So same thing might have happened that time also, right? Who knows?
Hmm. Yeah, maybe for a small while Bengal got irrelevant again because all
I
these
think
things happen in phases.
we believe in cyclicality of nature, right? I
Exactly.
mean, so
Yeah, things return very quickly in a few years.
Shankaracharya
Now,
debated Abhinava Gupta, Shakta Mata, who is not from Kashmir, at Kamakha. Abhinava Gupta, I think he was Kashmiri Soivite,
yeah,
but
Tantra Loka.
Kamakha is, of course, the center of Tantra. But again, I think Saptarsi, one thing I must say, there are sadhanas. Sadhanas are sort of like techniques, algorithms.
Hmm.
And these darsanas are like theories. Now,
Hmm.
I can have a lot of different algorithms to believe in the same theory, and at the same time, we can actually believe in different algorithms. If you look at those are computer programmers. So you see,
Hmm.
there are sorting algorithms. There are different kind of sorts, right? Bubble sort is
Hmm.
one. There's a different other kind of sort algorithm, but
Hmm.
they believe in the same kind of a theory. At the
Hmm.
other end, it is also possible to believe in the same sort of theory, but believe in different algorithms. So we should
Hmm.
not confuse with the
Cody code current গেছে. Wait, guys. Let me turn on my WhatsApp. Okay, sir is here. Yes,
Am
sir.
I
You're
there?
fine now. Yeah, yeah.
Right. I mean, so Arya is saying that I heard that Satyajit was a communist. Yes, that's my point. He was a communist, but he was not a. He was willing to change his beliefs. He
Okay.
was much smarter than most of the Bengali intelligentsia back then. That's my point,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So, and he saw, even if you see this entire Hirak Rajar this movie, then
Hmm.
basically at the end of the day, he was not saying communism is wrong. He's saying the application was wrong. That's why when the Jewish scientist or whoever it is, that
Hmm.
magician, when he puts a new theory
Hmm.
and sort of a, so basically he's saying the theory could be applied in a good way also. So he gives a
Hmm.
hope also. And then
Hmm.
they actually unsits the king and all this kind of thing. But
Hmm.
then what I'm saying is that doesn't mean that necessarily that he did not believe in communism, but he's willing to accept that a
Hmm.
good theory doesn't mean good reality and vice versa kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Sir,
No, but
I have
yeah,
to
go ahead. Yeah.
I have to digress just once more a little because I have
Yeah.
this question in my mind for the last 20
Huh.
minutes.
Huh.
That
Huh.
a lot of what you said is, I guess, are they interpreting it correctly or misinterpreting it? That when Ambedkarite Buddhists say that everything in India for the last 8,000, 9,000 years was everything was Buddhist. Hinduism happened in the 800 or 1000, 1200 ADs. From that time onwards,
Huh.
Buddhist Brahmins, evil Brahmins, started all of a sudden appropriating all Buddhist religious festivals, centers of education, temples, everything, puja practices, everything.
Uh-huh.
Everything was Buddhist in the past, and there was no Chanakya. If at all there was a Chanakya, he was also a Buddhist.
So problem of the Ambedkarite Buddhists are, it is actually not a Buddhism. So there are
Hmm.
22 points Ambedkarite wrote,
Hmm.
and all these points, I mean, a lot of those points are about negating Hindus. That
Hmm.
Rama, I don't believe in Rama, I don't believe in Krishna, I don't believe in Brahmins. But if you look at the Buddha himself, he never said all these things. So if you look at someone visited, I have the references with me, but not in front of me. Someone visited him towards the end of his times, and he was a minister, I think from Magadha, and he asked which country is most prosperous, and Buddha said those who actually allowing their temples to go on like before, who are actually accepting tradition. These are the countries that are most prosperous. There are 7 points he made, but these are the strongest points coming apart. So now, point is, Buddha was a Kshatriya, and when Buddha actually died, his body was claimed by the Kshatriyas. So, and if you look at the Buddha, he has actually a edict. Who is a true Brahmin? Now, who is a true Brahmin? This answer he has given actually, and he has mentioned all the beautiful kind of qualities. So basically, that time what happened? So basically, if you ask Marx, who is a true capitalist, would he really say that a capitalist is a person who really thinks about the proletariat and all these kind of things? We would never say that. He said there is no true, when all capitalists are bad capitalists. But Buddha was asked about the Brahmins, and he said, well, Brahmins has to be true Brahmin, he has to abnegate this and that, and all these things, noble characteristics, and all these kind of things, right? So, what he is saying, he is basically acknowledging they basically that there are some Brahmins, or there Brahmin, the idea of Brahmin is a good thing. It is not a bad thing. But he is saying, well, of course, many things are good, but then there are some problems happen over time based on our social discourse and everything. You have to clean it up. See the point? So basically, he is not saying that everything was not there. So in that sense, Buddhism was a continuation. And if you go to the old Buddhist texts, and this is something Subhas Kak he has mentioned a lot of times in different places, they actually have more names of Vishnu or Shiva than Buddha himself. They are seeing Buddha as a tradition, something, right? Now, what happened now? If you look at the historical ways, this Ambedkarist Buddhists are saying, they are not completely wrong, but they are missing the key point. It is true that at some point in time, most of the privileged places of Hinduism, I mean, as we know Hinduism today, that was actually controlled by the Buddhists. Because what used to happen that basically Buddhism was the dominant thing, right? The kings used to patronize it. So if you
Right.
look at the basically the Nalanda, right? Nalanda was basically patronized by the Palas and Senas, right? But we know
Yeah.
the Sen kings, they actually were more Vedic oriented. But they thought, well, this is a noble tradition, we have to keep the Buddhist tradition, right? So
Yeah.
Nalanda was mostly a Buddhist kind of thing, but still it was patronized by them. Now,
Yeah.
what happened then when after the debates were lost and Buddhism was losing clouds, a lot of the places switch happened, right? People said, well, we don't want to go with the Buddhism. And actually, it's not right. Buddhism was exclusively there. That is exactly
Right.
completely wrong. Fan here, I'm not just saying out of my belief. Whatever I say with a fact and proof.
Okay.
Fahian visited in India
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
7th century, right, from China. And he saw some festivals, and he saw in these festivals the Buddha's murti, along with Surya, along with Shiva, they are accompanying in a huge vehicle, and people are doing this utsava. So the idea was everybody will take everybody together. Okay, if you believe in Buddha, that's fine, not a problem. But then the festivals are all common people for everyone else, right? So it is not Buddhism was exclusively Buddhist and Hindus are Hindus. So there is no such thing. If you look at again our India, our Bengal was a huge Buddhist, right, place. Everything was sort of Buddhist back then. But then what happened there? Most of the places in villages and everything, and this was also mentioned by one Bengali writer, Saradindu, in his historical fiction, right? So basically, in the villages, there used to be one central place where Buddha and all other statues and whatever totems used to be there, and people used to pay respect to that. Now, even if you see today, Dharma Thakur is actually celebrated in the Rar Bengal, during the Buddha Purnima. So, who is this Dharma Thakur? So, he is basically Buddha because Buddha he is connected with Dhamma, right? Dhamma Saranam Gacchami,
Yeah.
Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhamman Saranam Gacchami. So, he was respected and equated with Dharma. Now, Buddhism is no longer there, but it kind of went on like this.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at, so basically a lot of places like Puri's Jagannath temple, it was a Buddhist place, of course. But then, of course, later Hindus actually, the Sanatan ideas become more dominant. And then Buddhas were also sort of Buddhist place were kind of now became more of Jagannath and other things. So
Yeah.
now So, but the idea is not a very kind of violent takeover or anything like that. What
Hmm.
happened that between 8th to 12th century, there was a aggression from the outside um, Indic forces, right? The non-Indic forces, there's a lot of aggression was happening, and this aggression was very brutal and everything. Will Durant has wrote about it, has written
Hmm.
about it in his book. This is the bloodiest chapter
Yeah.
in human history, right? Now,
Yeah.
what happened then? Because it is happening now, Buddhists were basically intellectual people like me who could argue very well. But when
Yeah.
the mob comes with violent weapons and everything, can't defend. Buddhists were more concentrated in the elite echelon, right? Who kind of Nalanda kind of things and everything.
Hmm.
Whereas the other people, I won't call them even Hindus because the word did not exist in that sense like we know today. People used to
Hmm.
call themselves like, Buddhists were like something like Baba Ramdev's followers. They are sort of
Yes.
distinguishes themselves.
Exactly, sir.
The
I
other,
got this impression from reading Rahul Sankrityan's book, his journey from
Mhm.
Sri Lanka to Tibet by on foot.
Hmm.
So he
Yes.
says, I met many common people. I met many Jains, Buddhists, and Brahmins. So
Hmm.
common people on one side and Jains, Buddhists, and Brahmins on one side. So all these were just priestly classes. The rest of the society was completely a separate thing.
Exactly. And even if
So
you see
what
this,
what we
huh?
would call Hinduism today would comprise
Hmm.
all those common people plus the Brahmins.
Called the Brahmins. So
Hmm.
basically, and if you look at even today, if you go to Sikkim, Sikkim, most people are Buddhists. Now, I visited
Hmm.
there. The driver said, well, I'm a Buddhist. His name is Karma or something. And he
Hmm.
said that, but I said, well, so he said, well, we also go to these temples by the Devis and other things. So
Hmm.
common people are, well, they are Buddhists, but it doesn't make any big difference. They also go to temples and do other things and all this. Buddhists do
Right.
not have any temples. They have only learning centers in
Right.
Sikkim. Right.
Exactly.
So basically, this was the way of the things everywhere, right? And when
Hmm.
these invaders came, the Buddhists with this
Yeah.
intellectualism could not prevent them. So
Yeah.
you require really men of power, right? Who will take up arms and everything.
Hmm.
And they, by inclination, was not really for intellectualism. They are actually looking for real terms who could fight. And
Hmm.
then of course common people, they said, well, this is not going well. So the idea of intellectualism is it is very nice when things are prosperous, but if people lose all the hopes when things are not so well, right? So people
Yeah.
are losing hope with Buddhism, and they are saying that this thing can survive. We need the Devi Shakti, we need to fight. Even
Hmm.
Hindu anti-Hindu people, I would say, Seldon Pollock and others, they acknowledge
Hmm.
that. They
Hmm.
said that Rama used to not been worshipped before 8th to 12th century. I mean, his theories are blaming Hindus, but he
Hmm.
is acknowledging that. He said that Rama was not worshipped too much and everything. But now,
Hmm.
after this invasion, Rama is being worshipped. Yeah, of
Hmm.
course. Why?
I
Because the
see.
moment you are under fight, you need an icon who fought very well and claimed everything, right? So
Hmm.
basically, you need the Ram inspiration of Rama back, and then you construct temples of Rama, right? That is
Okay.
how
Sir, so
Hinduism. Hmm. Yeah,
sorry
yeah.
to interrupt you. This is a fun
No, no.
tangent to take. When do you believe is has Ramayana been actually composed?
So the language of Ramayana, I have read it
Hmm.
actually original. It is
Okay.
actually more recent than Mahabharata. That part I
Okay.
know for sure. But that
Approximately
does,
what time frame? 900,000 AD or a little later?
I don't have any scholarly opinion on that, and
Okay.
I don't want to say things that I'm saying out of my belief system. I usually say things
Right.
what
Right.
I have seen.
Right.
But I know one thing: from the language, it is much easier to read compared to Mahabharata, and it
Okay.
seems to me it was
Hmm.
composed after Mahabharata. That doesn't mean
Okay.
the incidents could have happened. It could have happened the original
Exactly.
manuscript was lost, right? And they kind of composed
Of
it
course.
again and all that.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be, I mean, oral tradition anyway.
What else anyway? But if you look
Yeah.
at Ramayana, there
Hmm.
is a very nice thing. If you
Hmm.
look at the first letters, first varnas of each
Hmm.
the sloka, it
Hmm.
actually comes out as a meaningful thing. So
Okay.
that way, this Valmiki Ramayana, it does not have too many. In Uttarakhand, there is some differences, but otherwise, it has only one edition. This Valmiki
I
Ramayana.
see.
There are other Ramayanas we know, but
Right.
Valmiki Ramayana has only one edition. But Mahabharata, of course,
Right.
there are many editions.
Yeah.
One, definitely two most popular ones are Kolkata edition by Asiatic Society
Hmm.
and Bombay
Yeah.
edition. Now they
Yeah.
have combined them to come up with the Bodhi edition, Bhandarkar
Right.
Oriental Research.
Yeah. So what might have happened is that the Ramayana we know as of today is was something jotted down maybe much later with much relevant recent language, And
So I
things,
could
the
guess your
occurrences.
theory that you are
Yeah,
guessing. I think you are guessing a theory that maybe people there is a demand for Ramayana and then it was composed. Very much possible because
yeah, because
to make
it was in the oral traditions anyway. Someone just jotted them down that now let's
or
finalize
there
this.
must be there may be have some high poetic part. Some a few people also jotted down possible.
Yeah,
It's really
right,
24,000 slokas not easy for one person to compose also. But yeah.
exactly.
Hmm, hmm,
Yes, yes.
hmm,
So I am very interested in the Ramayana because
hmm,
it seems to me that monogamous relationship and something called
hmm,
love between a couple was, I think,
hmm,
first talked about in the world, I think, in Ramayana, I guess, among all the common texts we know. Because in the West there's a recent belief that marriages were always for convenience and family stature and kingdoms being handed over and stuff.
hmm,
So uh, that the idea that there is supposed to be something called love between a couple was first
hmm.
probably invented by Shakespeare, but that was much later in Western cultures. But Ramayana might have been the first one in this land.
No, I would like to be little hesitant about it,
Okay.
but because the way I see it, the
Hmm.
Romans they had this tradition of having one wife,
Hmm.
and extramarital things were frowned upon actually.
B- but how much did they talk about just love and romance between a husband and wife?
That I don't know, but partly
Yeah.
that is because the early Christians they
Hmm.
basically burned down everything, all the Roman manuscripts. The Roman pagan
Right.
manuscripts are all burned down, right?
True.
Alexandria, 5 lakh books are burned down and everything. Library of
Hmm.
Alexandria. Now,
Right.
of course, I'm not saying that present Christians have anything to do with about it. Christianity has
Of course.
evolved over time a lot, but yeah. But
Exactly.
so, but what I'm trying to say that even Christianity, the idea of monogamy, it is like in the present world is being preached by Christianity as a sort of like a rule sort of thing. But then that actually came from the Roman pagans, right? So when the Christianity was hijacked by the Romans, this rule was also came with them because if you look at the prophets in the Old Testament, they often had a multiple wives.
Hmm.
Solomon, for example, had 700 wives, but then that was sort of gone because they have to these Roman hands they have to accept the monogamy thing.
I see. So, sir, would you say USA is a Christian nation or a Judeo-Christian nation or a Protestant nation or a post-Christian nation?
Yeah, I mean the USA. I was there 2002 to 7.
Okay.
That time, I think, I mean, I was in northern part.
In which
So
university were you there in?
I was in University of Rochester, which is
Oh,
basically
yeah, yeah,
New York State. It is a
yeah.
80 miles or so from Niagara Falls, from the
Hmm.
Canadian border.
Hmm.
Now, that time I saw things that people were not taking churches very seriously there. But
Hmm.
I heard that southern part is very different, and
Hmm.
people there's a Bible Belt and all these kind of things.
Hmm.
But now the way it is going, of course, if the conservatives could reinvent, but chances are not very high. But
Hmm.
basically, it is becoming a liberal nation, and the churches they are also accepting the excuse me that
Hmm.
liberal ideas very liberally. Like
Hmm.
LGBTQ flags are being there in the church now. I mean, if you read the Bible in the first Genesis itself, then God actually made him man and human very different, right? I mean,
Hmm.
there are two sexes. It's very common in the
Yeah,
Bible. If you
Indian
read,
Christians are more Christian than American Christians.
that's I'm pretty sure about it.
Yeah,
Uh, and Indian Christians are very also. This is done by Maria Witt, a German lady who lives in India for last 40 years.
I
So
see.
they Indian Christians they take the dogmas also very seriously.
Yeah,
So see, ask
there's
some
no
Indian
divorce in
Christians.
Christian personal law.
No, even if you look at this issue of this whether when theological things like would non-Christians go to heaven? If you
Hmm.
ask the Americans, I know that non-Christian. I mean, there are some Christian conservative, but most general people will say, "Well, I don't think so." I mean, people have to be good and all these kind of things. So basically,
Hmm.
they have accepted the karma doctrine in a way. But if you look
Yeah.
at the Indian Christians, they will say, I mean, Maria, she has asked some, I mean,
Hmm.
IITian Christians, and they said,
Hmm.
no, only Christians will go to heaven. So they take doctrines little seriously, I think. I mean, that's what the
Yeah.
impression Maria was
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, few days back, someone had asked me a question, just casually
Mm-hmm.
in a live audience interaction thing we were
Mm-hmm.
doing. Someone asked that, do you agree with the idea that Hinduism will take over the world someday, or at least grow in popularity significantly all over the world in the coming years. So I said that yes, the ideas will, but Hinduism will not get the credit for it, because people will call it by some other words or some other just random made up English names, but the ideas will be popular.
So I don't mind. I don't think Hinduism should get the credit also. So I don't want Hinduism just to be another Christianity. So the idea of Hinduism actually again a Christian construct, as you know from by reading
Yeah.
my book, of course.
Yeah.
So I believe that the what humanity needs is
Hmm.
less of theory, more of
Yeah.
experience, and that will be facilitated in the Hindu original decolonized Hindu ideas of
Hmm.
dharma and sustainability. So if
Hmm.
the European pagans reinvent themselves, African pagans reinvent themselves, the
Hmm.
South American pagans come up, paganism comes
Yeah.
up, I'll be happy.
Hmm.
In fact, there is
Right.
one society who does it. One of my friend, Carl Clemens, he
Okay.
actually is doing something on that, and he organizes regular seminars on
I
different
see.
parts of paganism in different parts of the world and all these kind of things. Yeah.
I see.
Hmm.
Sir, do you have any idea on this question that's on the screen that Shaptoshi is saying? I don't think Puri was a Buddhist place because we have history of it being captured from us Hindus. So I don't know about the part he's saying. It might have happened to
So
the
basically, what I
Hindu
think, I
declaration.
mean, the
But
way
I have read that Fahian
Huh.
said that the Rath Yatra was a Buddhist practice. He notes down from Patna.
But then it was it in Puri? May not be, na? I think that Ratha Yatra he observed in North India somewhere
It was
else.
in Patna.
Ha. It was in the Patliputra, the center
Right.
of that time the Indian elite used to be in Patna only, but yeah, because
Right.
yeah, that's the capital. But
Hmm.
I think uh, so. Basically, the idea is firstly, of course, there's a dominance of Hindu and ancient traditional culture. Then Buddhism became more dominant. I mean, that's how
Hmm.
the Puris goes. And then
Hmm.
again, of course, this. So I think we started from the point from the Ambedkarite Buddhists. So Ambedkarite
Yeah.
Buddhists are sort of right in one very factual level, but of course
Hmm.
the theories are all wrong. That Hindus have taken over forcefully and all this kind of thing. That's not how it used to happen. I mean,
Hmm.
and I think this Ambedkarite Buddhism, it is not by any sense an Indic tradition. It came
Hmm.
up with some theories of Ambedkar and all these kind of thing. With all regards to him, it is not a part of our tradition. It
Hmm.
was just something he started, and some people are
Hmm.
following it. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm actually I would say disagreeing with Savarkar. When
Hmm.
Ambedkar ji became a Buddhist, Savarkar ji
Hmm.
said that well he is from one Hindu sect to another Hindu sect, something like that. Savarkar ji said it doesn't make any
Hmm.
difference. But I
Hmm.
don't go like that. I mean, I think even though it is a Buddhism, but it is a sort of a religion sort of thing because it has a theory and all these kind of things.
Hmm.
The original Buddhism did not have any sort of a theory, so
Hmm.
it was very different
Right.
person.
Right. Sir, do you think, what do you think of, do you know anything about this topic that when Hinduism, or let's say Vedism, Vedic Dharma came to Bengal first, people say that
Mhm.
the Jains were the first in Bengal. I think that's the academic consensus in let's say legitimate
Old temples are of there are
institutions.
old temples, 2000 years old Jain temples there.
Hmm. So
But then
is that
that
why
doesn't prove or disprove anything because
the bird
Chandragupta
one,
Maurya. Yeah, yeah,
I
tell
think
me.
the bird one place is, I think, named after Vardhamana Mahavira, I guess.
Definitely. But
Hmm.
that way, if you look at Chandragupta Maurya, he
Hmm.
was a Hindu. I mean, in his life or something. I mean, the way we know him. But then, I
Hmm.
mean, the way we define Hinduism, let's say. But he
Hmm.
becomes Jain towards his end of his days, and then he was
Yeah.
in doing his tapasya in Karnataka, right, somewhere. And
Yeah.
then we don't know even. I mean, the cave is very small. Nobody knows and goes and everything. But the point
Hmm.
was, Jainism was not seen as a different religion. It was seen as like, suppose tomorrow I say, well, I've done, I mean, I'm planning like that also. Let's say 15 years later, I say, okay, I leave everything now. I'll do fasting twice a week and I live a life of penance. Who will guide me? So one guru said, okay, you can take this thing. So
Hmm.
Jains was like that. Many people used to
Hmm.
go for high sadhana into Jains. It was not a very different sort of anti-Hindu theory or anything, not like that, right?
Hmm. Okay. Now, sir, uh,
Hmm.
we will cast back your ideas now.
Ah, right, right.
It was a great digression.
Detour.
We love such digressions.
Thank you.
Uh,
Acha,
so,
now
sir,
we'll go
burning
to
of books.
now if you look at this cultural revolution,
Hmm.
So I think it happened in 1966 or so. So what happened?
Hmm.
Mao had control, but Mao did have sort of like more of a token leader rather
Hmm.
than real leader.
Hmm.
Because what used to happen, there used to come a communist consensus, and this
Hmm.
communism, they were the other people in the communist party,
Hmm.
they were, most people are very good people with conscience and everything,
Hmm.
and so they wanted to have a collective leadership and sort of things. And
Hmm.
Mao, of course, he wanted a prophethood, right? Sort of like he wanted to be the new Confucius and the old Confucius
Hmm.
go down or something like that, right?
Hmm.
So he wanted to have it very different.
Hmm.
Now, what he said, so first he wanted to eliminate the people. So there's a Mao was saying, right? Let thousand hundred flowers bloom. So this is a campaign by the Communist Party.
Yeah.
Hundred flowers campaign or something. I mentioned in this tweet also.
Hmm.
Now, so if you see the movie, originally this king Utpal Datta, played by the Utpal Datta. So
Hmm.
he was saying that okay, sing, there's no harm in singing. And people are saying,
Hmm.
sing. Basically, they are
Right.
saying, no, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And then people said whatever they wanted to do.
Hmm.
And this is a very calculated move.
Yeah.
So if you see even Old Testament,
Hmm.
Moses said, well, do whatever you want to do. And
Hmm.
then some people started worshipping cow and all these kind of things.
Hmm.
Of course, that was not liked by the God of Moses,
Hmm.
and he said, well, these people have to be punished.
Hmm.
So this is in from I'm saying literally what is written in Exodus, Old
Yeah.
Testament.
Hmm.
So basically he said his brother was Aaron, and then he was very Aaron told these all things are going on. So then
Okay.
basically one particular family, Levites, they took swords and came up, and
Hmm.
3,000 people were killed because
Okay.
they were worshipping cows and other things.
I
Okay,
see.
so calf and other things, right? So
Right.
same idea. Let people first speak out, thinking they are
Hmm.
free. The moment they feel out, you identify people, right, and then punish them. The same thing happened here. The moment this singer, this Charandas, he spoke out, he was
Hmm.
actually put in a shackles, and then he was put in a ditch or something like that, right,
Yeah.
to die. The same
Yeah.
idea here. So basically, the moment people spoke out, they were denounced and all these kind of things. Now
Hmm.
Mao saw that okay, he got the revolution done, but his name may not survive because what he is doing, all these famines and everything will come back, right, and haunt. I mean, people
Hmm.
will eventually come back. So
Hmm.
he wanted to keep a legacy, and this
Hmm.
is a very problematic person when the idea of legacy is being these megalomaniac people. They have the idea of legacy. So he basically wanted to remove the
Hmm.
entire Communist Party command. And this is the
Hmm.
not a very similar thing happened also, right? In Pandit
Hmm.
Nehru, uh,
Yeah.
he saw that basically the most, he saw the Indira, she's not a very prominent personality. And
Hmm.
he kind of sort of got his Congress president he liked, Kamraj, and
Hmm.
Kamraj has a plan called Kamraj plan. And that
Hmm.
said, the prominent leaders, they have to go down to the grassroots. And
Hmm.
in the grassroots, people have to become up, right? And that process, Indira Gandhi got a lot of more prominence, right? Than
Hmm.
I before. But anyway, but here it is more non-violent because Indian culture is, after all, not so violent. But then
Hmm.
in yeah, cultural revolution, it happened in a very violent way.
Hmm.
So what happened that Mao said that, well, we need to appreciate and let the revolution happen. So how did he
Hmm.
do that? So he shut down the schools.
Hmm.
And the schools shut down, and he said we have to do the revolution. And he encouraged students to do the old culture has to be denounced.
Hmm.
Now, these people, the rogue elements, right, they are all repressed. And the
Hmm.
lumpen elements, we are letting them do whatever they do, what they will do. They will
Yeah.
kill the people they dislike. So it
Hmm.
started with girls, student, high school girls. They
Hmm.
actually uh, attacked a teacher in the Beijing. And
Okay.
basically, they poured hot water, boiling water on her and everything, and she eventually died. uh,
Okay.
so this is how it started in Beijing, and then
I see.
eventually 1 million people died in these kind of attacks on different officials and everything. Mao
Okay.
left the administration and army out of it so that the
Hmm.
security is not disturbed. He
Hmm.
left the rural people out of it because he
Hmm.
knows rural people are not interested in this, so that the
Okay.
production normal goes on. But in the
Hmm.
middle class elite, havoc happened. Havoc happened, right? All
Hmm.
the elite, they are kind of dethroned and all these kind of things.
Hmm.
And then basically the books are sort of any book, anything, if you hold it, you will be called anti-revolution. You can be burnt at stake, I mean, denounced and killed. Anything could happen.
Right.
People are
Yeah.
themselves burning books. Some cases, so these people used to be called red guards. These
Hmm.
ruffians who are actually lumpens who got out of the schools because schools are closed. They are called red guards. And
Hmm.
Mao said they have to be given food,
Hmm.
so they are getting free food and the license to do whatever they liked.
Hmm.
So it was like a hell. And
Hmm.
Communist Party, they knew very well how to play with the psyche. So
Hmm.
they basically used to keep like slogans like do denounce by words, not by violence. But then when it comes to punishing those who are doing violence, they are not doing anything. They are letting them do.
Hmm.
So basically, they keep the record clean that we have not promoting violence. But then at the ground level, a big violence was happening. And
Hmm.
actually, Jun Chang was victim of that violence as well. So anyway,
Hmm.
our father and everything. So
Hmm.
then this is the how, right? Then he was punished. He was sent to a rural place in a tractor factory. Consider him. He was the top Politburo member, number two or number three. Then he
Hmm.
was sent to a tractor factory. And Deng was sort of like man Bajpayee kind of person, amicable person. So
Hmm.
this was the lowest punishment. Some people were much more unfortunate. They died and everything happened and all this kind of thing.
I
Right.
see.
Hmm. So yeah, some questions are coming, but I
Yeah.
don't know. You want to take the questions or go with the Chinese thing?
This particular question, can you just answer? Then we'll get back to this.
Huh. So basically, he thinks that we should promote some deities in dharmic prayers, start Chakrameswara, Sivasparam, Avalokiteswara in Harihar, etc. I mean, promote is a very strong word. I
Hmm.
sort of like to believe that people should have a very society where they could live um, amicably with the society, but they have their own sort of freedom they earn,
Hmm.
and they can pursue anything they like. So in
Hmm.
that way, I won't say that, and I would also say that, of course. These Buddhist deities, Tibetan Buddhism, they have
Hmm.
a lot of deities which is actually from Hinduism. So I don't think it's a very
Right.
big deal what people will do or not. What
Hmm.
I need to do from the world to make the world
Hmm.
better is
Hmm.
remove the theories that are based on unreality. So that way I'm also against the Gnostics, because
Hmm.
Gnostics believe in a theory that nobody knows true or not. And that way, but I believe in more experiential content. But of course,
Right.
if you go by, I mean, but I am, of course, I don't believe personally believe in any god or anything. That way you can call me
Hmm.
atheist. But I don't
Okay.
consider myself a Nastic. I consider myself astic but atheist.
Okay. So, sir, the next point is we
Hmm.
kind of discussed this point already, but so
Hmm.
I'm getting a little
The burning
forward.
of
The
books it
peasants
has
and
come, right?
laborers.
Uh,
Peasants and laborers we kind of discussed. Now this one is
hmm.
more fascinating.
Hmm.
The propaganda techniques. One is larger
Hmm.
than life iconography,
Uh,
and then choreographed to the foreigners. Now this larger than life iconography is
uh,
what we were discussing in the very beginning. That subtle messaging and subtle
hmm. Hmm.
propaganda in art
Uh,
forms.
right.
So what were the similarities here with Hirak Deshe and Mao's China?
So basically, you see this big statue, right? In the Hirak Raja, there
Yeah,
is a big statue of the king being unveiled. I mean, very larger than life statue.
yeah.
And I have given many examples. So there's a
Hmm,
big statue of Mao Zedong thought by in a particular Chinese place, which is very famous,
hmm,
unveiled in 1970, unveiled in 1970, right?
hmm,
And then again, if you see this particular, I mean, there are also other hints thrown liberally. So
hmm,
they said that this is Barsa Purti, and then Gupi says, and then Baga says Bharsa Purti, because he got confidence that this rain will go on. So basically, this is a celebration of the rule, right? When does
hmm,
it start? It starts first day of Asin. Now we know
hmm,
Asin month, it starts in October in English, right? So
hmm,
basically, this, and you know the Chinese calendar, it starts, I mean, Chinese Communist Party, they celebrate 1st October as
hmm,
the Chinese National Day. And
hmm,
that is basically the day they are starting the country as the Communist China, right? Again, you
hmm.
can see a very message given in this by Mao Zedong's day.
Yeah,
Yeah. And of course this big statue being unveiled, so basically you see and this is actually, if you read this Animal Farm, in a
yeah.
dictatorship, communist dictatorship no exception but more,
Hmm,
basically you have to say that everything is happening by the I don't know, by the inspiration of the great leader. So this great leader syndrome, right? I think in West Bengal also we are seeing it a lot, but anyway,
Yeah.
in the contemporary politics. But
Yeah.
this thing is actually very fascinating. I mean, and you see these Mount big statues, right? Even today, if you go to Tiananmen Square in Beijing, this is a
Hmm.
big larger than life portrait of Mao, right? It is being kept
Hmm.
because the current Communist Party, they think that if they don't believe Mao is a great people, I think. At least
Hmm.
there are some WikiLeaks cables that says like that. But
Hmm.
then what happened if they bring Mao down? They
Hmm.
fear that everything will backfire, then party will lose the existence, right? So they actually kept Mao as a token kind of thing. Um,
Hmm.
Almost sort of like I don't know, maybe people may not like this analogy, but I will say like Modi ji keeps the Mahatma Gandhi ji. When if you look at India's foreign policy, I don't think it is sort of not very Gandhian, but of course we keep it as a token, right, in a way.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, Sir, do you see this point happening in modern day as well? Choreographed tour for the foreigners, which happens in North Korea as well, China, and
So
Hirak
in
Rajar did.
China, what happens now? Now they don't need to give choreographed tours. So in a
Yeah,
way,
because now
China
they are
has
far away from Maoism.
actually they started a capitalist economy,
Yeah.
and this is I would say I often argue with my students.
Hmm.
I don't know whether they, I don't know, they appreciate or not. But
Hmm.
the point is, if you look at Russia, Russia
Hmm.
continued with the same communist policy till 1988 or so, from
Hmm.
1917, right? 70 years.
Hmm.
But if you look China,
Hmm.
they took this communist policy only for 29 years. After Mao died in the late 70s, Deng
Hmm.
started and he said that I don't care whether the cat is black or white. We have to do whether it is able to catch the mice well, right? That's what he's kind of said. And he started basically a capitalist kind of country,
Hmm.
where he promoted everything, right? So
Hmm.
essentially, and they took a lot of tour. And why it happened in China, not in Russia? Because
Hmm.
China actually has a lot of ancient Eastern culture. And in
Hmm.
Eastern culture, we believe in experience. We don't believe in sort of slogans, right? In Western
Hmm.
culture, Russia is sort of more Western than China in a way, right? It is not
Christian
as Western as
Orthodox.
it's Russian Christianity, but still it was closer to Western. This, I mean, I don't have enough research on this, but this is an observation I'm making only.
Hmm.
Um, Now, if you look at then China, they actually and they went on a very big trip, and now I don't think they need it. I mean, many of my, but it
Yeah.
is a police state in a way. Police are
Yeah.
posted everywhere, cameras are there everywhere. They could
Hmm.
track everyone. Now,
Yeah.
people are putting up with it because this prosperity is coming.
Hmm.
Now, but I have a fear for Chinese people. I mean, in a way, I'm not against Chinese. I respect old civilizations, and I'm
Hmm.
actually respect them as well. But
Hmm.
what I'm trying to say that um, basically, if you look at these people like Chinese population, I'm little concerned for them. They
Hmm.
lost all their ancient culture and Confucianism. If you see here again, and now they are sort of only banking on this is like a very much a existence based on only consumption and all that. That's it, hedonism.
Hmm.
Now it
Hmm.
is nice when this prospers, but the moment there is a disaster, it could be any length, and it is
Hmm.
possible there will be massive anarchy in China, the one we
Hmm.
never saw anywhere before. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
possibility like that, I think.
Yeah. Uh, but we see North Korea doing it even today because they are, after all, also run by communism and
It is a puppet
a
state of
theory-based
China.
identity.
It is a puppet state of China. North Korea could
Yeah.
survive because China need. I mean, this is what the political scientists and strategists say.
Hmm.
China needs a rogue person who will act on their behalf. China
Hmm.
did not want to say, "I will nuke Seoul." That would look
Hmm.
like very irresponsible and not befitting of a superpower status.
Yeah.
But they need a rogue guy who could
Hmm.
say that, and they will be the guardian of that guy, right? So people will actually
Yeah.
come to you. This good cop, bad cop kind of treatment, right? This
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah. Before going to the last point,
Hmm,
just check out this comment, sir.
hmm,
He's a regular viewer of us. He's saying Chinese follow their traditions but don't know or understand why. Chinese
hmm.
culture has been made into a zombie by Mao.
I recently been to Singapore and I visited
Hmm.
a Chinese temple,
Hmm.
and I was sort of disappointed. So I actually went to this person who is caretaker of the temple, and
Hmm.
nobody was there in the temple. I mean, I was there for an hour or so. Only one person came. So compared to Hindu temples, well, so many people there, nobody was there. And when I wanted him to give me a tour of their tradition, he was very delighted because nobody asked him these things. and then I get to know all the different people. I mean, it is like a normal pagan tradition. They have respect for the all these different things, and it was very nice thing. But the way I see it, the modern Chinese people, they sort of have a sort of like a token relevance to their tradition, and they don't see them connected to the modern life. And I'm sorry to say that, but if we do not reinvent ourselves, or if you cannot reinvent our education policy in India, cultural policy in India, I mean, not only in government level is required, but also in a very much very much, I'll say, small community level. India could go the Chinese way. That is the fear we are having. We could
Hmm.
see a tradition is sort of like a very token kind of thing which has no relevance to life. I
Hmm.
think that's very dangerous, because then you are disconnected from your thought process of your previous generations. You
Hmm.
do not know the problems in their experience. You don't take them seriously, right? Already it is happening.
Hmm.
If you see Rabindranath Tagore, he said
Hmm.
that Ramayana and Mahabharata, they actually educated all our people, folks everywhere. They gave
Hmm.
us the values and everything that we have to be read. But now,
Hmm.
if you go to the current generation, how many of them have read or even know a basic storyline of Ramayana and Mahabharata?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of problems are already happening.
Hmm.
um, and I actually agree with that. So the
Hmm.
Chinese is pathetic when the same thing. And again, in the Mao thing is coming, like Mao said that this teacher Somitra, he was teaching something, and the person comes and say, "What are you teaching?" He said, "Hitopadesh." Good advice, right?
Yeah.
And whose advice? He said, "Well, we don't know the name." He said, "Those whose names are not important, then they are not important." Again, you see this Mao, there's a campaign that
Hmm.
uh, denounced Lin Bao. Lin Bao was a person who was made a sort of
Hmm.
like he was a puppet of, I mean, Communist Party official, but he was
Hmm.
made a scapegoat for all the problems. And
Hmm.
then Mao used to find regularly scapegoats who attributed to all these problems. And
Hmm.
then along with that, denounced Confucius. So
Hmm.
here again, the Communist Party was that you don't denounce the Confucianism, which is actually
Hmm.
prompted Lin Bao, and
Hmm.
actually praise the Mao Zedong thought.
Hmm.
So
Right.
again, you see in the current Chinese premier, I think he's also going
Hmm.
a little bit Mao kind of way only, right? His own
Hmm.
thought is being enshrined in the Chinese constitution now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, you dedicated your book to a teacher of yours from, I guess, Ramakrishna Mission. You are associated with that institution, right?
I was a student for 12, I think more than 12 years for Ramakrishna Mission.
Oh, I see. So, from in college as well, or just in school?
So I was in the kindergarten for a few
Okay.
months in
Okay.
Malda, and
Okay.
then I 1 to 10 I studied under that particular Asansol Ramakrishna Mission 1 to 10, class 1 to
Okay.
class 10, and my
I see.
headmaster was this particular person for a long time, whom I actually, he is a very popular person even now. I met him recently also. He's in Canada now.
Okay.
So I dedicated my book to, and then 11, 12 I studied in Asansol Ramakrishna Mission. This is a college, used to be called Residential College in Narendrapur, but it is sort of a high school kind of thing for that time.
Right.
Um,
Right.
hmm. So
So,
12 years plus a few months in kindergarten. Yeah.
yeah, I see.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, what you were talking about just now, that our
Hmm.
education system needs to be revamped.
Hmm.
What kind of a role do you think Ramakrishna Mission can play here? How much can they contribute? And I mean, how successful do you think they will be in this case? Will they lead the
What I
charge?
see Ramakrishna Mission, that there are some good karmi, there are some good executives there in the
Hmm.
teaching and other disciplines.
Hmm.
But Ramakrishna Mission, actually, in a way, they don't. So the way Vivekananda saw Ramakrishna Mission, he
Hmm.
saw it as a vanguard of Indian thinking and all these kind of things.
Hmm.
I don't think Ramakrishna Mission is quite having that role today. I mean, how many intellectual discussions are having
I
in
see.
their magazines, right? Udbodhan or something like that.
I
So
see.
they are a good charity society and all this kind of thing. I'm not saying they are doing all wrong things or anything like that. They are doing
Hmm.
charity. They are doing some good services.
Hmm.
But if you want to revamp education system, that means you
Hmm.
have to say that these things are not good, these are bad, and some
Hmm.
things are good. I mean, you have to do both, right? You cannot say that everything is good. That way, nothing, no revamp can be made.
Hmm.
So I don't think Ramakrishna Mission can say anything is bad. I mean, so that is,
I
I
see.
think,
I see. Okay, sir. Then the next point is the similarity
mm.
between the Red Guards of Mao's China and Hirak Rajar Deshe.
Right. So the red guards, right? And if you see the Hirak Raja, this is this sentries, right? This
Hmm.
henchmen, right? They are also
Hmm.
red. Uniform
Hmm.
is red,
Yeah.
right? And what color does it remind you to, right? I mean, if you are
Yeah.
born in the time of Hitler, it could reminded you of course, Nazism as well, because their flag
Hmm.
also red. But then
Hmm.
we are not born in the time of Hitler, so we
Hmm.
know, right, what red means. And
Yeah.
secondly, again, Indira Gandhi does not have that color, right? Anywhere red. Again,
Hmm.
another hint, right? And
Right.
again, see, there's a sort of symbol being there everywhere, and that
Hmm.
sort of thing is only there in communism, right? I mean, Indira Gandhi, it's not a very great symbol or anything like that, right? She was only a person, but that's it. That's pretty much it,
Hmm.
right? There's no
Hmm.
theory, there is no henchman, and all these kind
Hmm.
of things, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, sir. Then final one or two questions from my side
Uh-huh.
only first.
Hmm.
That why do you think was Satyajit Ray an outlier, or was filmmaking in general? Would you say was way better than today's scenario, or are we just biased to that generation? Why were such great movies being made in those days, and why can't such movies be made today in West Bengal?
Okay, you're talking about West Bengal, right? Not India.
No, Satyajit Ray's Bengal versus today's Bengal.
So Bengal generally, as I'm saying, I think on the um, declining part of the cycle now. And in the Ray's
Agree.
time, it was Ray was, so if you look at the background of Satyajit Ray,
Hmm.
he has a very noble family tradition, right? Upendra
Hmm.
Kishore Rai Chaudhary, he was actually very instrumental in decolonizing Indian mind. And you will
Hmm.
see one thing, he wrote the two books, very important books, Cheleder Ramayan, Cheleder Mahabharat. So
That's the only
basically,
Ramayana I've ever
Ramayana,
read.
right? This is the Ramayana we all read in Bengal, used to
Hmm.
read at least in the Bengali
Yeah.
society when he started, right?
Yeah.
So basically, the idea was a decolonization drive, and he was doing it. He sent Sukumar Ray, his son, to England, right? Why? Because to
Hmm.
know printing technology, so that we
Hmm.
can print and we can do things like Sandesh came out of that, and all this magazine Sandesh,
Right.
right? And
Hmm.
all these kind of things. So
So for the
basically,
non-Bengali viewers, just tell people what Sandesh is.
so Sandesh means
Sandesh.
message.
Yeah.
Message is it's a name of popular Bengali sweet, but it was a
Hmm.
very nice children's magazine that used to be published. Now I
Hmm.
don't think it is there anymore, but I
And
think,
it
but
was
I
started by Satyajit Ray's father, also a
so
famous
this is
author.
father Hukumar Ray, and
Yeah.
it used to contain very nice articles on science, arts,
Hmm.
history, but in
Hmm.
very language that is very suitable for the children.
Yeah,
So
it
in
was
a
a
way,
children's magazine.
it was a very advanced idea in those times.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so now what happened now? Yeah, I don't know whether I missed anything on Sundays or not, but
No,
yeah.
no.
So then basically then Satyajit Ray had that this good thing, right? He inherited, right, from
Hmm.
all his family background, and this actually means a lot of cultural ideas and everything he had, right, in him.
Hmm.
Then unlike the other left people, most of them got suddenly like sort of uh, got communism because they are disenchanted with the tradition.
Hmm.
Satyajit Ray may not be that disenchanted. That's my reading. And he is the when he joined
Agree.
Presidency College
Hmm.
as a English student, English honored
Hmm.
student.
Hmm.
So first day in Presidency College, someone asked, how many dramas of Shakespeare, William Shakespeare have you read? So
Hmm.
actually, Shakespeare read 39, I think, dramas. Now, many people in this Presidency College in Engineering, some said one, two, three, four, five, or something like that. Satyajit Ray said all. So that actually immense maturity, right? For a high school student just in the college, reading all
I
the
see.
Shakespeare dramas, right?
Hmm.
And I think Shakespeare, I mean, as much as I don't like the British colonization and everything, love Shakespeare. I mean, I think I should have read it way before in my life, because I was Bengali medium student, so I could not
I
read it
see.
before. But it
I
has
see.
so much of human emotion and so much of, I think a part of the thing that British is going to become a great nation, it actually
Hmm.
lies in Shakespeare. That in
Hmm.
16th century, someone is writing that kind of intricate human relationship in some simple language. I think that
Hmm.
lies there. That these people are really maturing, right, towards a very
Hmm.
great, and they have matured and to get created great persons, right?
Hmm.
Darwin was a British, of course, and all these people, right? Now,
Yeah.
Bertrand Russell, Huxley, all these people, right? Now,
Hmm.
what happened that these where were we? I think then basically Sotire he had that. But
Hmm.
another thing is usually conservative people they have a
Hmm.
problem. You are coming from a good family, that means
Hmm.
you get everything. uh, the moment you land, you are in silver spoon and everything, and then you don't get your own experience, so you are not very mature enough, because your
mm,
experiences make you mature, right? Now,
yeah,
what happened, Satyajit Ray, uh, I see in the hindsight that he was gifted with that. It was, of course, very unfortunate. He lost his father when he was 2 or 3, and
mm,
his mother really had to struggle. Maybe they had a house at Kolkata, but that's pretty much it. There was no earning, and it was not a market economy that time. It's not very easy for women to get money. Jobs
mm,
were not there. So his mother really struggled. And
mm,
then that actually makes you learn a lot of things when you are young, right? So he got
mm,
a lot of experience, plus he had the good fortune of having high culture. And
mm,
I think that actually somehow made, I mean, he was, of course, when he was 6 or so, he went to Rabindranath Tagore for an autobiography, and Rabindranath Tagore wrote uh, some small poem, right? বহুদিন
mm,
ধরে বহু যুগ ধরে দেখিতে গেছি পর্বতমালা দেখিতে গেছি সিন্ধু. So the point I'm
mm.
trying to say that he had access to Rabindranath Tagore in the age of
Yeah,
6. Not ordinary Bengali children, would
yeah,
have it,
yeah,
right? That time, yeah. So basically,
yeah,
he got the gift of both high culture as well as his own struggles and experience, and that is, I think,
right.
he matured into that, and he is a polymath. I really respect him a lot.
Mm,
um, of course, I am not a I this is I'm saying everything with an idea that I'm not a very great connoisseur of movies. I mean, I
mm,
love watching movies and everything, but of
mm.
course I don't consider him myself the kind of proficiency I have in, let's say, in economics, sociology,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
culture.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course. How do you think can such movies ever happen again anytime soon in West Bengal?
So
What will it take?
What Bengalis need, we need a renaissance again. What
Mm,
happened that we are Bengalis, the problem happened when this our Bengal was divided.
mm,
Divided Bengal created a lot of economic problems, but that is
yeah,
the least of the problems. The
mm,
biggest problem is that Communist Party was a very small part of Bengali reality before.
mm,
um,
yeah,
the Bengali elite was predominantly in Hindu Mahasabha and Congress before
mm,
before the Bengal partition of Bengal, right? I
mm,
mean, Communist Party did not have really noticeable presence there. But then the moment this happened, this it went up.
mm,
Now communism is everywhere antagonistic to tradition. So the
mm,
tradition that made us great was
mm,
all destroyed by communists, even though we did not understand it, right? So
mm,
why Bengal became very good? Bengal became very good. So see, Bengal was another Nadir at the time of the famine. It's called ছিয়াত্তরের Monnantar. It happened in 1770. So
mm,
that time Bengal was at the Nadir, right? And then what happened after that thing? The entire thing was revamped. There was a permanent settlement by Lord Cornwallis. And
mm,
as much as we don't like this thing, this permanent settlement, it actually created a good, prosperous middle class who are very interested about culture and other things. And this is exactly why we have so many revolutionaries coming from, very aristocratic families, right? All our
yeah,
revolutionaries are
yeah,
families, right?
yeah,
And then that is one thing. Secondly, we have the advantage, being the under British, we have the advantage of having the western window first among the Indian states. So
mm,
our problem with the Indian view was that we were colonized for a long time, and
mm,
we have no experiential understanding to move forward in life, and that made us
mm,
that was the problem, right? The Marathas was trying to overcome that, but
mm,
otherwise we were like that, right?
mm,
Now, because we had the European experience, and this was very
mm,
important, when Savarkarji, he went to London, what
mm,
he did, he started reading about Garibaldi, Mazzini, the Italian heroes, because he
yeah,
knew their experience will come vital, right, for Indian to
yes,
decolonize. And we are having the same experience here, right? Aurobindo Ghosh, of course,
mm,
he was a top student, right? He was a ICS with record
yeah,
marks in Greek and Latin, but he rediscovered, and he
mm,
sort of understood all the issues, right? All these things are happening. Bankim Chand, he was the first graduate of Kolkata University, right? Calcutta
mm,
University, and he became
mm,
kind of all pioneer of decolonization. So everything is like
yeah,
that, right? Now,
yeah,
what happened like that? Now, these all these traditions we bloomed because of these settlements of permanent middle class who are culture driven and everything.
yeah,
And secondly, we also had this open eyes open to this European experience. And
mm,
thirdly, we have economics prosperity because Bengal is a prosperous region. Now, if you cut to 1950, all three are gone. We do not have any good middle class because middle class from East Bengal, they're struggling in the slums, and then unemployment became very huge. So our prosperity is gone, our tradition is gone. And the third thing, the European experience, that is also gone to an extent because the education becomes a communist mouthpiece in
Yeah.
1970s on, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, we became Russia fanatic or China fanatic kind of person. Everything in is good. I mean, Russian cow gives
Yeah.
30 times more milk and all this kind of thing. Yeah. So, so this is how we sort of now. If we have to reinvent ourselves as a people, we have to go back to our roots, right? Communism is only 100-year old in Bengal. Before that, Bengal was there. Bengal produced the best
Exactly.
personalities, right? So we have to understand that communism is a nice theory, but it's a Gnostic thing. It doesn't exist in reality. So that meaning of Gnostic we have to discover
Right.
collectively. And
Yeah.
liberalism is just an extension of that same paradigm.
Yeah.
Now, secondly, this is number one. Now, problem in India, Bengalis, I think most of the people in Bengal, they are having good experiential understanding, but they are negated by the Kolkata. I think you are maybe from Kolkata. I mean, you have not disclosed anything, but I anticipate you from Kolkata only. But anyway, so but the problem is with Kolkata only. The elites there in Kolkata, they have they are snob, and they also don't know the reality too well. I mean, I'll just give an example. If you go to any discussion, ordinary Bengali discussion, and ask people how many of them have read Nasim Nicholas Taleb, Yuval Noah Harari. These are the topmost thinkers, right, of today's times. Forget S.N. Balgangadhar. I mean, these two, nobody has read even these two people. Most of the Bengali places, you not find people to have read too. I mean, maybe there are, I'm not saying there will be nobody, but much, I think, comparatively compared to Bangalore or some other places, there will be definitely less people. I think I see
I
like
see.
this.
Yeah.
That's my perception from Twitter. I
Mm.
might be wrong, but this is so our window is very narrow. We only think about Marx and some here ABC, some communist thinkers, and that's pretty much it. So this is something we need to first change, right? This. Secondly, we have
Right.
to accept our tradition. Our tradition is
Mm.
Shakti, right? Tantro. That
Mm.
is our tradition 200,000 years ago. That was
Mm.
our tradition in the time of Khudiram, right?
Mm.
He said Jai Ma Kali. That was a tradition for Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. He started
Mm.
Durga Puja. So our idea is Shakti. We don't want
Mm.
to go become a sort of like intellectual persons in books. We want to practice Shakti in body and in mind. That's what Vivekananda says. This
Mm.
is what we have to come back to, right?
Mm.
And the third thing we need economic prosperity. We need basically not this much of state control system, state and
Mm.
ruling party control system where everybody's livelihood decided by them. We need a
Mm.
really industrialization and lot of opportunities. Now all three are not there at the moment, but
Mm.
if we can bring them up, we can. It's not. It doesn't take more than I think we can bring them up in 20 years. But of
Mm.
course, we need to make right decisions collectively.
Right. Okay, sir. Last question for today.
Mhm.
I've been recently hearing some people say that the Hinduism that we know today is basically
Mm.
the kind that Swami Vivekananda and Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa envisioned. Okay. How much do you agree with that notion? And if so, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, this is a new Hinduism hypothesis. So this was dealt pretty much. The critique of this has been dealt very much by Rajiv Malhotra in his book Indra's Net.
Right.
So I mean, I think he has addressed it very well. So the idea is essentially it comes again from the Christian tradition that you
Mm.
need to have a religion. I
Mm.
don't think there is any religion called Hinduism. We do not have
Yeah, of
any
course.
theory or anything like that. We have a dharma,
Mm.
and
Right.
there are different dharmas, right? I have a dharma as a father. I have a dharma as a professor. I have a dharma
Mm.
as an author to speak the truth
Mm.
to people. I have a
Mm.
dharma to you in this platform as well. So there's
Mm.
many dharmas. In Mahabharata,
Mm.
there's a conflict of different dharmas and what to do. And Gita is all about the different dharmas that conflict, how we do settle these things and all these things.
Mm. Mm.
Now and these dharmas are true for everyone. A
Mm.
Christian father has the same dharma to his son, like I as a
Mm.
non-Christian have to my son, right? So there
Mm.
is no, but religion says religion wise he might have a different religion, different belief system. But if you ask
Mm.
him what's your dharma, he said, well, my dharma is to educate my son, we will live livelihood and all these kind of things, right?
Right.
So in a way, we do not have a understanding what the Christianity is. So I don't believe in the idea of religion. I don't.
Hmm.
I think if you model religion is a Christianity, then religion I don't see really its relevance too much. I mean, I don't see
Hmm.
it. Maybe some people can see it. They can differ with me, but I don't see
Hmm.
its relevance in the collective life today. So
Right.
at the end of the day, I think it is a good thing if Hinduism did not exist before. So they are actually accepting that we are a
Hmm.
universal tradition as opposed to dogmatic tradition like Christianity, right?
Right.
In a
Right.
way.
Sir.
Secondly, Vivekananda,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
on.
please.
No. No. Go on.
Secondly, there's
Hmm.
a problem with the decolonization.
Hmm.
Vivekananda tried to interpret dharma as religion. And he said the Hinduism is a religion. Same thing Bhagini Nivedita, Sister
Hmm.
Nivedita did in her books also, and all these
Hmm.
kind of things.
Hmm.
But they always knew that it was not same as Christianity. They
Hmm.
always have said that, right? So
Hmm.
actually, at the end of the day, they are saying that these our ideas are superior to yours in some domains at least, right? You have a lot
Hmm.
of prosperity doesn't mean that you are all good, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
So from that
Right.
point of view, they argued our case using the language religion. Now modern scholarship is sort of very shallow sometimes. They try to focus on one language and wanted to say what hypothesis they wanted to say.
Hmm.
Um, because this is a very sort of narrative based. You don't have the
Yeah.
right narrative, you can be cancelled, right?
Yeah. Sir, I find what you are saying very fascinating. This
Hmm.
idea that prioritizing experiences over any dogma, over anything. Okay.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
way you are describing
Hmm.
it, I
Hmm.
think, can lead to a very great and nice, peaceful, happy world where people are
Hmm.
very satisfied and happy in their lives. But
Hmm.
do you think even then there's some sort of a political need to be organized or united under some name?
That is a good question. Actually, in a way, India, why we got colonized? Because
Right.
we did not have any political doctrine. I mean, in some sense, religions are political dogmas, right? They create
That
an
is what.
identity and sort of like that, right? And when
Right.
we got colonized, because when the invaders are coming to the northeastern region, we see it's a
Hmm.
local problem there. Cholas are not bothered, Bengal is not
Yeah.
bothered, and all these people. And then when it comes to us, but then it's too late, sort of thing. So in a way, we need, but I don't think the need is actually for a theory. The need is what we say that Atman is Brahman, right? Ayamatma Brahma. What is inside you, it has to be outside. That means what is outside is also seen as your. So the problem in outside has to be seen as your problem.
Hmm.
So we failed that. When other
Hmm.
people were being plundered, looted, um, we are being subject to barbaric onslaughts.
Hmm.
The other people, we were very selfish. We did not see it's our problem.
Hmm.
Because we were selfish, then our karma is being bad karma, right? Because we have a duty, as because we are all part of the same reality called Brahma.
Hmm.
Atman is ourselves, right? Self, but it is part of the big reality, cosmos, called
Hmm.
Brahman.
Hmm.
And you need to think like that. That
Hmm.
means your problem, I mean, Nirajan's problem is also my problem as much as I could do within my scopes, right? But
Hmm.
if I don't see that, so when you are being attacked, I say, well, this guy is there, we don't care. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
Right.
actually start even from northwest frontier of India. It
Hmm.
actually starts what happens in, let's say, in Central Asia. It actually goes what happened. I mean, as much as you know, right? Communication
Hmm.
and other issues are there. But as much as
Yeah.
you know, if you see any problem other places, you have a
Hmm.
duty to try to alleviate it. That
Hmm.
is what we call, but of course we know that not everybody can do everything. Suppose the same person has to study, do research, and again
Yeah.
go look for the problems and kill them, have to do
Hmm.
commerce. Not everybody can do that. So
Yeah.
that's why the concept of Varna and concept of Jati has come.
Hmm.
We'll have specialized people in all domains in our civilization. It is not about
Hmm.
income equality or wealth inequality. Income actually wise, I think Vaishyas could be most prosperous of them. I mean, that's how it looks
Yeah.
like. I read
Hmm.
Arthashastra and other people, right? Even
Hmm.
Sudras, they have land, they have a good existence, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I think in the present times, who is the
Hmm.
privileged person? Who
Hmm.
have actually, I would say, someone who actually is residing in the same place where he father, resided,
Yeah.
brother lived all life, and still living in the same place. I think he's a privileged person. And
Hmm.
Sudras are more attached to their land, so they are most privileged in that sense. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
issues on that. So we can go on hours on that. But the
Hmm.
point I'm trying to say that our civilization wanted to cultivate. So the
Hmm.
idea that this equality and diversity will come together,
Hmm.
that is a theoretical nonsense. If you give
Hmm.
everybody same education, you will produce only same kind of people. So
Yeah.
we envision that. and we
Yeah.
envision different jatis with different kind of education system and social structure, so that they
Hmm.
are free to specialize in their own domain. So
Hmm.
Kshatriyas, they have a moral duty to go to any problems, and this is not
Yeah.
I am saying, not my theory. This is what Medhatiti, a very
Yeah.
celebrated commentator of Manusmriti, what he
Yeah.
has written in 9th or 10th century,
Hmm.
maybe 10th century, I think. So this is the
Hmm.
idea. So Kshatriyas, they need to go, they need to see any problem in the neighboring places and do something in that problem. So the
Yeah.
idea of sovereignty, the way we know that, does not exist in Indian psyche. World's
Hmm.
problem is my problem. My problem does not stop in my border. My problem
Hmm.
is the entire world. When
Yeah.
we actually fall from that ideal, then we need to, this karma comes haunting us. And that's how we got subjugated to this
Yeah.
kind of a, this submission, this kind of terrible humiliation for
Right.
being colonized for so many centuries. Yeah. So I would not
Right.
say that, and so in some, I would not say that make Hinduism and another Christianity with Rama as prophet. No, I don't like that. I don't want that. But
Hmm.
what I want people to think about the world's problems in a very non-theoretical experiential way and do
Hmm.
their best to alleviate those problems. That's what
Hmm.
I see we should have it.
Right. Okay, sir. That was a very amazing discussion. It was great to have you again. Sir,
Thank
hope to
you,
have you
Rajar.
back sometime soon to discuss such amazing topics.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. I'll write another
Yes, sir.
tweet on
Right.
original movie Gupika and Bhagabain, and
Okay.
then maybe you will have another
Yeah.
maybe you will have another opportunity to call me
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. 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 Let's do it. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
श्रवरूढं महाभीमं गुणाद्रष्टाङ्गरप्रदम् हस्य युक्तं त्रिनेत्रं च कपालकर्णिकाकराम् मुक्तकेशीं ललज्जयं पिबन्तीं रुधिरं चतुर्बाहु समायुक्तं वराभयकरं स्मरेत् चतुर्बाहु समायुक्तं वराभयकरं स्मरेत् काली काली महाकाली कालिके पापहारिणी धर्मर्थ मोक्षदे देवी नारायणी नमोस्तुते धर्मर्थ मोक्षदे देवी नारायणी नमोस्तुते काली काली